Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terror Boys over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
To the second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Got Devin Board with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
It is Monday, September 9th, 2024. I am Jimmy here with Chris and Jay-Z. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in tonight. We got a very, very special show. This is our 100th episode. Crazy to see what we have done along the way here. Can't say it was much, but we appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in every week. I see you, Santos. He says, checking in. Can't believe it's already episode 100. Neither can we. We're not sure if this is exactly episode 100 because we've lost some episodes to the ether in ways, and then some episodes got split, but we're close enough. So we're just going to say, for how special this show is going to be tonight, we're going with it's episode 100 by all means. So tonight, we got very, very, very special guest. This is someone that's been very requested, and we were kind of waiting for maybe closer to the 100th episode to do this. Oh boy.
I saw it and I'm like, here we go.
He's ready to go. So for this 100th episode, special guest Danny Dietrich tonight. He's in the back right now. So we're gonna bring them in a second. But Chris, Jay-Z, we had a great week at Port Royal at the Tusky 50 and everything. We got to see a lot of these people that are in the comments right now and everything. It was pretty cool. How you guys doing tonight?
Much better. I get to sleep in my real bed last night. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it was a weekend. That's for sure. It was a weekend of weekends. It was fun. Tuscarora 50 weekend is always a great time. Met a lot of people, talked to a lot of people, had some good times. It was, it was a lot, but we'll get into it here, I'm sure.
So let's not delay any longer, because this is sure to be fun, because we got a lot of questions for him. We know you guys do. And this is the guy that he has, the most unfiltered opinions in the business, Mr. Danny Dietrich. Danny, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. It's been a wild last hour or so. Sounds like you had a hell of a day. It was a Monday of all Mondays, it sounds like. So try not to take up too much time, but I got to be honest, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I know we all have a lot of questions, and there's going to be fan questions, and we're not going to put them behind a paywall. We're going to ask them if they're good. So hopefully you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people you're well known around in our area and around the country, but we've had Billy on a couple times, kind of talked about your younger days and kind of coming up through, and really where I want to start is my question, and I don't know how you want to phrase this. So you got a lot going on in the industry. You're not just a driver. You have a family business. Your brother's in the business and races. You got a lot going on that surrounds the sprint car community. So my big question is, what has helped you most in your career? Was it growing up with dad, being around racing your whole career, or was it a combination of dad, the business, learning about this industry and sprint cars that has helped you the most in your career, would you say, of those two?
I would say it's probably just growing up with it, with Dad and Bill, and I really don't know anything else other than racing somehow. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't run a register. I couldn't, do a lot of things. I mean, what I can say I've gotten good at is knowing the fundamentals of racing inside and out, whether it be, dealing with the customers and seeing how everything affects them, or racing myself, and what maybe doing this or doing that may have repercussions of certain types, and then just kind of trying to build my own, letting people see my own personality, just being so different than I would say than those people. You got to kind of learn every time you do something, and kind of adjust and build from that, just like you do as a race car driver or something in business. You're always adjusting to something.
And and I've thought a lot about kind of everything you just said. All the
Side note, Christian McCaffrey's out tonight. So
Yeah.
if you're like me and you have Christian McCaffrey, that just really sucks.
And if you're like me, I'm gonna win one league because he's not in the game.
That story, McCaffrey being out story, has been on repeat for like 6 years, I feel like. So I stay away from him.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt. It's just,
all good. You're right.
It's another Monday of all Mondays. Another reason.
It sounds like he's making bets. Like he told us.
No, I have Christian McCaffrey in 2 of my 4 leagues.
Oh,
oof, that's
ouch.
tough.
Yeah.
And not really enough time to go get a backup either.
Right.
I have the backup. He's on my bench.
Right. It's your bet. Yeah. And there's no there. Everybody.
Mason.
So.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So with you having kind of a hand in all of those little facets, right, and you get to see it from every angle, your personality is outspoken, and you're not afraid to put yourself out there a little bit on a ledge with your opinions. Have you ever had to second with any of that based on not the racing side of it or what a track thinks, but what about the business, the home business? And usually I will say that you're rarely kind of taking the controversial stance against racers. It's more of tracks or promoters or some of those things and what you experience. But have you ever had to second guess yourself on any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do or say things all the time that make you really I make myself shake my own head sometimes, like, I mean, like just the other week, like I get on there and complain about how late nights are going and how long it's taking for a racetrack to run an event. And then, like the day later, the Grove takes forever and I just get in the truck back out and leave. And Jeremy helps me open up the gate and then I get a fine for doing it, and it's just like, gosh, sometimes I'm just a little retarded when it comes to this stuff. I shouldn't say it like that, but I'm pretty dumb sometimes.
And that's the thing with that. And listen, in our circles, I'm friends with some drivers.
I blame Jeremy, by the way. He helped me open the gate.
I did. I probably owe a portion of that fine.
So is that the night of the Sportsman Marathon? We had to watch Brett Perigo destroy his race car.
Yeah.
It was during that red flag. They were trying to get out of the pits. There was a long red flag, and everybody knew it was going to be extended.
It was going to be
the
long.
gate was kind of open, kind of wasn't, and I held it open so he could roll. And they locked the gate; no one else could leave. He was gone. Danny was out, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Brett Perigo, for getting Danny out early.
That's a wild story right there.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's just like, then I get on the phone with Jeremy, or not Jeremy, with Justin, and I upset security, and I don't quite understand that because I didn't think anything was very escalated at the gate, and apparently they were upset and had to fine me and whatever. It was like 10:30 till we got out there, and the feature wasn't even over. Like we sat in the infield for an hour and a half. But going back to your question, yeah, I do some dumb stuff that really makes me shake my head and just say, why couldn't I just wait another 10 or 15 minutes? But whatever.
Well, and I guess that's part of it, right? And I think we've all done that, but it's part of growing up and then balancing that and going, okay, there's a lot at stake for me potentially, whether it's being fined or my business or, how I could be treated at a racetrack. But at the same time, we need some of that, right? So I think there's a balance to it. And I think as you get older, as we all get older, we kind of find that balance.
I mean, it's definitely not much of a balance for me. I tend to just be stupid. I mean, it's like yesterday, this whole phone debacle thing. I'm like literally like I'm like, oh man, it's cold out. I'm gonna videotape myself jumping in this cold ass pool, and that's what I did. And I mean, as many times as I've taken my phone underwater, you know what I mean? It's just like one of these times, like I'm gonna learn, like don't take your phone underwater. Like I'm gonna learn to like not leave the Grove early or do something stupid on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like I just don't. For some reason, I just don't learn.
Is there a good reason to jump in the pool? Is it because the Steelers won without scoring a touchdown?
I mean, dude, you got to be a Boswell. I might have to go get a Boswell jersey. he's our high scorer. I will be all year. But I mean, I was just kind of vibing in it. I knew if I jumped in the pool without just stepping my feet in, it would be fine. You just got to get that shock over with. And I thought, well, I'm going to jump in the pool. And then I was like, I'm going to videotape it. And then when I got my head above water, the phone was black.
That was it.
So I'll be honest, at about quarter of, I was starting to get a little concerned, like, oh shit, we might have done something wrong and pissed him off. He ain't coming. I don't know. Like
I just downloaded I just got Messenger back on my phone, and I actually forgot about the show until Rachel told me. She's like, don't forget about your show at 8:00, which is pretty bad. Like she texts me and I have to look at the number because I don't have any contacts on my phone. So like, it's like I said, it's been a day. It's been a day.
Thank you, Rachel.
she's upstairs. Emma just did something. He was screaming his head off.
One of the things, and this was what I thought about all week, was sort of like all of that, like who you are and what you do. And the second part to this question is, as you're in this race team and you're the kind of the driving force in the race team, right? I can tell that a lot of times like the Gary Kaufman Racing posts are from you, right? And you kind of have full all access to all this, and that's okay. With you having so much experience and growing up in this, and you have a crew, and you have people that help you, and you need those people. Has that been tough for you to say to be able to step and allow your team to do their work, even though it is manual labor? There's a lot of important things, and I know you all work as a team, but with you having so much experience and being able to have control of all that, have you had to balance that over the years and let your team do their thing without maybe you micromanage or taking over?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be way worse, way worse as far as micromanaging. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say like I don't know that I've ever been like overbearing. I think I have a pretty good grip on whether or not I am or not. And I feel like the last, I would say, year and a half, last year and this year, I've really been able to kind of probably before that with Jake. With Jake, I've been able to let him do his own thing for a while. We kind of just started gelling a little bit better. I feel like, honestly, I've had some really good crew members over the years, but I feel like right now, this year, I got probably, I think the most solid crew I got from guys I can trust driving a rig to, which are Sean and Chad, and then, having, Chad do tires. I really don't have to question hardly anything. He might be listening, but I tell him all the time, like, his tires got air in them because he always forgets to put air in them after they come in and cool down. But it's kind of a joke now. It's kind of like a running joke. As soon as we come off the racetrack, like, Chad, you gonna put air in that tire? You know what I mean? But like, it's not really a micromanaging. It's more like now we're just kind of picking on him because we know it's his flaw. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like Jake and I just kind of have a good system going, and there's times where maybe I need to get a little more involved, but not very often. I think, the difference of when I need to be a little bit more involved is when it comes back to, growing up around it and having 30, being around it for 36 years. I've been working on, I built my own car when I was 14, so, I got 22 years of basically working on my own car since I built my first one myself. So, there's not much that, and that's what we do for a living. So that's kind of, I guess, when I need to step in is whenever sometimes he doesn't, it's not what he does for a living. It's no different than I don't like working on my pickup truck. I'll take it to Jake to work on that, and vice versa.
Quick question here, because this was something I was wondering and kind of piggybacks off of this. Randy Kopp here says, how long have you and Gary been together as a team? And I was wondering, I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a while. And in, today's day and age, especially, there's a carousel of drivers and owners and everything constantly, but you guys seem to be pretty constant every year. What makes that work between you and Gary?
Just both of our desires to win. Gary wants to win, and at times, sometimes it is a little much. I mean, his drive to be the best is so high. It's incredible. I mean, like, and sometimes sometimes, to be honest with you, behind closed doors, me and him are kind of, a little frustrated with each other, I think, because there's times where, like, right now we haven't won since Speed Week, and that's tough. It's tough for me because, I pour everything I got into it, and he doesn't see the wins coming. So then he gets frustrated because, we're not in victory lane. And there's a lot of hard work that if we ain't winning, I'm not going to be very happy. Last year we only won 7 races, and man, it was trying. We didn't win till, like, I think our second win was Ohio Speed Week, and it was like, man, this was tough. Last year was one of our worst years. And I think, his desire to win, my desire to win, and then, he's paying the bills and I'm putting in the work at, a lot of the effort, getting the things right and taking the pressure on of the team, making sure we do win. I mean, I run the team and I drive the race car, so I feel like it's all on me. You know what I mean? So, it gets frustrating. I will say, behind closed doors, like I said, I think we get a little irritated with each other at times, but that's any, I think, race team. If you really want to win, you have that expectation.
Yeah, it's that competitive drive, and we're not going out there to finish second, third, fourth, or beyond in anything we do, right?
Yeah.
Played any sports or grew up in any competitive environment.
Yeah, we started in 2000. To answer that question, we started in 2010 together, and so this would be this would make our 15th season total together. So, count 2010. So I think it's a season 15.
Yeah.
It's been a ride. You know what I mean? Like, when you can average 10 wins a year, it's not easy to do in PA. I mean, I feel like we should be better than that, but that's average, and that's not counting a couple of years we weren't up to par, I would say. Then, the first 2-3 years, I was only 21 when I first got, started racing for Gary. So, I was pretty immature when it comes to being a race car driver, pretty fresh, and I feel like, we've been able to balance, 10 wins a season or more. And I think that's pretty good. We're at 10 now. I hope we're not done for the year. I feel like after this weekend, anything's possible. We know what being down in the dumps feels like after this past week. It's pretty big struggle. But I feel like right now that we've been there. Now we got to be able to go up at some point here.
So how do you navigate? You mentioned the 10 wins, all of them before July 7th. You started off the season, you're probably every night won first or second almost every race for the whole spring. And since Speed Week, 6 top 10s. I know that's frustrating. And of course, you're in Knoxville, and that's takes away some weeks here. What's changed, or what's kind of just cut you off the track there a little bit?
I think a lot of people don't understand. Even like with Gary, even we had PHP week, and then the week after we went to Lincoln, and my dumbass put the car in the fence on lap 2 of a heat race. That was pretty stupid. That's probably when I get mad at myself, and Gary gets even madder at me. But then we took a weekend off. Then we had the Outlaws here. That's not an easy task to run.
Yeah.
Up front, and we ran. BAPS wasn't the normal BAPS. I don't understand that, but BAPS wasn't normal BAPS, so it threw a lot of us guys that I thought are pretty good off. But we ran top 10 at the Grove 2 nights in a row, fighting from behind. So, I mean, when you're racing against the Outlaws, it's never easy to run top 10. It's just not. You got to have everything go right to run top 5, and even everything go right and have a lot of luck to win. I think an Outlaw show, they're just tough to do. And then as soon as the Outlaws were out of town here, we left and went to 360 Nationals and had a cracked coil. Motor didn't really run 360 Nationals. Went to Cappy, learned what not to do, and went to Oski and thought maybe we had our car kind of fixed out there in the black dirt, and just got into the cushion wrong, racing for, I don't know, 8th or something like that. And I don't know, Knoxville just isn't our strong point, never has been a strong point for me. So, but before you know it, like right there, I just explained all our races between Speed Week and the middle of August.
Yeah. And then even then, that's when you started seeing your top 5 started coming back, and looking at your results there. I mean, obviously this weekend, not banner, but still could be worse.
But I mean, like, people don't realize, like, we went a month and 5 weeks and barely raced realistically. I mean, and when we did race, we raced with the top competition in the country. So it's not your results are going to fade a little bit unless you're what seems like Rico. You know what I mean? Like Rico and Kyle are the only ones that really stayed on top. Even David's gotten a little slower, having some bad luck. I shouldn't say slow, but just having kind of some bad luck. And anytime
won his first race since May, right? So to your point.
Yeah. I mean, like look at Brad. You know what I mean? Like, he's been top 5, but like, I don't know. I think we set the bar pretty high to start the year. Then we kind of get to this point in after Speed Week, and then I think the reality is, A, we don't race as much, and B, when we do race, we're racing against the best competition there is in the country. You know what I mean? All the time, and sometimes like when we go down to Iowa, we're not on familiar ground. We're not, and that's why I get frustrated. It's why I'm not a big fan of going to Knoxville. I don't think our team is really set up to go to Knoxville. We were going racing against guys who got 10 motors and we got 4, So I think that happens. And then, Knoxville has just put us behind. It does every time we go out. Every year we go out there, we take our best engine out there. And this is what happened this year. We took our best engine out there, and, you run 5-6 nights, out there with 410. And you come back here, and now it's Tusky weekend, and our best motor's lapped out. It's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have 10 motors where 3 of them or 4 of them absolutely rip. We got 4, and 1 absolutely rips, and the other 3 run good. But everybody brings their best motor to Tuscarora 50. You know what I mean? Or
all these crown jewel races this last half of the year too.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm sitting in a situation where I'm probably gonna need to get this other motor fresh, and I was trying to kind of hold off and have a motor that had a lot of laps on it, just to kind of finish out some of these non-high, high caliber races. I would say, we got some weekends here where it's like Baps and Lincoln only, or or places where you're just not going to have the Tyler Courtneys and the Brad Sweets and the Donnie Schatz. You know what I mean? You're going to have just your locals, and I don't feel like you need quite as much to get the job done. And probably got to freshen that motor up. That way it's fresher, in a couple weeks, when the Outlaws are back in town.
So, and you mentioned one thing you mentioned there was not racing as much. To date, you have 69 races under your belt. Last year, you ran 87 for the whole season. So you're not too far off, but it feels like they've been in weird spurts, right? Like you race a whole bunch of speed week. You go out to Knoxville for 2 or 3 weeks and you do have some racing, but it doesn't feel like maybe it's the results that do it, right? You're done early. You didn't get to do it all. You crash.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like we went to Florida and ran 6 races.
Yeah.
We had Ohio Speed Week was
9,
7, 8.
I think it's 8.
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah, I think it's 9, and then we skipped Hilltop or whatever the other place they went to. So I think we ran 8 there. That's 14. PHP Week was another 9. That's 23. And then you go to Knoxville and you run 7. Yeah, that's 30. Like right there, them 4 trips are half our season.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like people don't understand. Like we haven't raced that. Like last year wasn't that many races. You think about the fact that last year 5 of my races were high limit races in the gas car. So like last year we didn't have a ton of races. We got a lot of rainouts. This year here we got, even in my opinion, if we would have skipped the Knoxville trip like we did last couple of years, we're down at like 56 races right now, and that's kind of dog shit, really. You know what I mean? Like we only got 13. I just counted tonight. We got 13 races left. If we get them all in. That's taking Selinsgrove off and adding Lincoln in. So there's 13 total races left, and let's just say we get 9 in. It's not a very good year as far as amount of races ran. So
speaking of that Lincoln race that's coming up, maybe there's one more being added from what I'm hearing. Maybe rumor. Have you heard this?
I've just seen that Outlaw show added. That's all I know about.
We've heard some murmurs about the night before that race on Friday night, maybe picking up a date somewhere.
I'd like to see it happen. I mean, I'm not a big fan of one race weekends. I've always said that. Like, give us an opportunity to like get ready and race that weekend, whether we race twice or once. But I hate going to the weekend just with one race. Like, let us race twice so that way we can, if we can figure on racing. Otherwise, like, you get that one chance of rain. Like, I'd rather go to the beach.
The other question I have this year, in particular, is your time trials. And for the most part, most of your career, you've been a pretty good time trialer, no matter where you draw in the field. For the most part, there's always those events. But it seems like
what
this
are
year
you
there's
talking
been a lot
about?
of
I've been
shit
terrible.
happening. Really? I thought you've been better. Maybe you have, but I thought
I've always been
like this year has been a lot of shit happened.
Well, I've always been terrible. I feel like I've always been terrible. I can tell you right now, coming up, like when we got to think about going to Williams Grove and it's time trial, just like, man, I don't want to go. I miss the old handicap show. Start me in the back of a heat race with the slower cars up front. We'll work our way forward in the heat. But like, man, I feel like over the years, that's been my biggest downfall is time trialing locally.
Interesting.
Locally. We can go to Ohio. I feel like we time trial pretty good.
I was gonna say it seems like you're getting at least 1 or 2 quick times every time you go out to Ohio Speed Week.
Yeah, like we used to always be fast at Knoxville. I mean, we haven't been to Knoxville in a while, but like we used to always go to Knoxville and actually probably time too good. But I feel like at the Grove, I'm always 3rd or 4th row at an Outlaw show in a heat race. It's terrible.
Well,
maybe you're thinking back to when there was like a 16 invert for the Outlaw shows.
Was that back when you won the National Open? I can't remember when they changed that rule.
I think National Open 2016. I think that was an invert. I think I timed like 12th or 13th. Same with like when I won the Outlaw shows at Lincoln. That was back when they had an invert. I remember the first one we won. We showed up with an All Pro and it blew dust in warm-ups. So we skipped warm-ups and put a dash 12 in and went like 15th quick and put us on the pole of the heat. Detuned by changing engines.
Speaking of starting 2nd or 3rd and 4th row in the Outlaw shows, this is something we've talked about on this show, and I've been pretty critical of it. When those Outlaws come to town and our guys not time trialing, and I think there's this era changing. You're not a young guy anymore. You're that veteran guy that the posse's like looking up to. Macri, yourself, it was Brent, but he's here, he's not. Freddie, Troy, I think is coming into that picture. But like when the Outlaws come to town, you're that guy, and we've been fairly critical. Like, hey, like we got a time trial, and we all know it.
Yeah.
What do you think is because you, like you said, you got the motor program, you pass cars, you've raced here a ton. Do you think it's just I need to tweak the setup some? Is it you mentally? Like, what do you think is that kind of that roadblock when the big guys come to town and we're missing that half a tenth or 2/10?
I think I honestly wholeheartedly believe that my weight at Williams Grove kills me. I just do. I think the whole starting and stopping in the corners, well, even when it's fast, you're still, driving down the corner at 130 and probably getting down to 90, or 80. You know what I'm saying? Like it's such a hairpin where like that say 40 pounds or 30 pounds that get in the car to get ripping again. I mean, I look at somebody like Cody Hartlaub just got into the 410 here this year, and like they got good motors, but I know they're light. You know what I mean? Look at Cameron Smith. They're on the weight limit, and I know in 2019, even 20, like we got the car trimmed down a lot in 19 after coming back from Florida, because we went down to Florida and time terrible, and we came back and just trimmed a ton of weight off the car because we had kind of just blacked out on worrying about weight, and like we got a lot quicker in 2019. We timed really good, and part of it is I think my weight, and part of it is I think, like I said, just sometimes only having one really good hard hitting engine, and not always having the knowledge that some of these other crew chiefs got because they've been through multiple engine builders, or just a little more experience with tuning. You know what I mean? Or Jake and I are probably just a bit behind when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like Jake's really not on the up and up with fuel settings where I am, but I've always kind of had to protect our engines, and I've never been one to really experiment a lot with fuel settings because I can't afford to lose an engine. So I think it comes down to both. I think weight and if we could have maybe another new motor, or just maybe just a little more backing so we could play around. And if we hurt one, then you just get it shut off before it really comes unglued, and just know, hey, you got to make sure you're learning from it every time.
Well, if you have that one hard hitting motor and you skip Knoxville next year, I mean, everyone's just going to call you a porch sitter, to be smart. Like you're just going to get that shit,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest, like I said, the biggest fan of Knoxville. I don't mind going. I think the event in Knoxville is second to none. I think it's much better than even the Kings Royal or anything around here. I think the event at Knoxville is just absolutely phenomenal. That's why it's the National. There's no other race called the Nationals for a reason,
Right.
I think everybody does a good job. I'm not taking anything away from any track around here or anything, but it's still Nationals. But I don't think the racing's as good as it used to be. I think the format kind of sucks anymore, the way the racing is. I think just about 90% of the teams in the pit area would agree. Then you got your 100% of the old school fans that wouldn't want to change their opinion on the format. But I think if we could just have a better situation, and we've tried to do that this year by skipping Eldora, which we've hurt two cars in a motor the last 2 years, and we've taken some weekends off to try and just save laps and stuff, and I think that's helped. But going to Knoxville and having that expense of a trip, where you're spending so much money to go there, and then you're coming back with wore out stuff. You know what I mean? Or you're putting that many laps on your stuff, and it kind of screws you up. Because you get back from Knoxville, we've kind of been lucky. Every other year we come back from Knoxville, you get right into the All Stars, going to like Grandview and the Grove and Port and Selinsgrove, or whatever that 4-race weekend was. So we've kind of gotten away from that, but it still goes. Tuscarora 50's right behind it.
Jimmy, you want to do a couple fan questions? I know
Yeah,
we
let's
said
go.
we would do that if you want to do a couple of those. I'm sure we have a ton more, but we'll knock out a few of those if that's get some people on.
Yeah, let's. Well, Jennifer Cool here asked, "What are you drinking tonight?"
I have Crystal Light tonight.
Oh, okay.
No alcohol tonight.
Me too. Crystal Light tea. That's what I got.
Yeah, I got tea as well. It's been a rough day. If I start drinking anything, I probably won't stop. Sometimes it's better not to get going.
Jeff asked, "Did Danny talk about his part in the Bridgeport date yet? That was a good show last year, and that was something I also want to ask you. That's coming up, and maybe just explain your hand in that this year, because it looked like they weren't even going to have a 410 race.
No, they weren't. I mean, they were going to have the one that got rained out was going to be it, and I kind of talked to Doug Rose at the beginning of the year about dates, and they weren't really working. And I know he had lost money last year on that race at the end of the year, and I kind of felt like I knew some reasons maybe why. I thought there were some things that he could have done better for Central PA fans to be aware of the race better or more so.
Mm-hmm.
He last year he had a flex start time. I thought was a terrible idea for fans because you don't know what time you're going to be going. Certain things with the racers, and maybe not over racing the race. I know he lost money, so and I didn't want to see him lose that date. I kind of like, the way the Bridgeport was going. And 3-4 years ago, I didn't think the racing was very good for sprint cars. I was pretty against going there myself even, but he's worked hard to get us good racetrack every time we've been there, and I think it's been a much better the last 2 years. And I really enjoyed what he did for that race with getting the kids involved and having like the trick or treat behind the grandstands, and
that was awesome.
And then last year, we parked our rig out behind the grandstands, which I'm sure we'll do it again, just for the fan interaction. But I felt like there was just some little things that could have really boosted that race up for the fan side of it. I would love to see some drivers come from out of town, that are on their way to Charlotte or whatever and race with us. But, if we can, get Anthony and Justin Peck and a couple other local guys just to come out. I mean, it's the end of the year. I think nobody wants to let go of the racing season yet, so, I think, we're going to work on making it a nice event, not a drawn out event. We don't want to be a 5-hour show, but I know it's in the middle of the World Series, kind of, if it gets to like game 6 or 7. So,
that's a good point. They're outside of Philly.
Yeah, and he was fighting the Phillies in the World Series, I think, last year, maybe the year before.
Yeah, and then there was also a soccer game too. I think MLS, because you go right over the soccer stadium if you're coming, and they had a playoff game right there at the same time as well.
Yeah, so I know he's been advertising it really hard. I've been trying to advertise it at my T-shirt show to fans. I feel like I got a good following that I hope follow over there. Go to Bridgeport and support me. Support us. And I know I told him, I said the biggest thing I want to do if I'm going to be part of it is we're starting at 3:00, and that's just what it is. No flex time unless weather's an issue. But I want to be able to get people where they get up, they get lunch, they head to Bridgeport. They leave before lunch and grab lunch somewhere, go to Bridgeport, and then they can plan whatever they want to do in the evening. Do you want to go out? Do you want to go to Live Casino? You want to go to Atlantic City? You want to go home? You know what I mean? Like, you still have your evening to do something. That area over there has a lot of things to do. If you wanted to drive that way for an evening, there's plenty of places to go. Like when we go down there, we stay in Atlantic City. It's 40 minutes away roughly, and that I enjoy that part of it. I want other people to be able to make a day of going to Bridgeport. So that was one of my key factors was we're going to start at 3:00. And if we got to take a half hour or 45 minutes to do track prep, then that so be it. I think that's understandable, but we're going to get started on time and, try and get everybody out there, let's just say by, 6:00 so they can still go for dinner.
I think that's a great idea.
And if anybody watching this has not been to Bridgeport yet and experienced that, is different than what if you've been to our track, Lincoln, Port Royal, Selinsgrove, Baps, whatever, it's different and it is awesome. And
Yeah.
if you get the chance and you're there and you get to walk out on the track after, go do that, because what you see sitting in the stands looks like high banked. Go walk your ass through the corners and walk up and down that hill. It is something like you haven't seen around here. So
I agree.
I've been there the last 2 years, I want to say, and for that show, and it is just what sprint cars can do around that place is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you what that place has compared to what our tracks here in Pennsylvania have been lacking is slide jobs. I mean, there is a lack of slide jobs in Pennsylvania anymore. I feel like the tracks just don't, I don't know. They don't have it in the racetrack. The track doesn't allow for slide jobs. It's just the way it's prepped or dry, whatever, but Bridgeport, man, you're pulling slide jobs left and right.
Yep.
It's the banking to support it, right? Like
Yeah,
it just doesn't shelve off.
I told
Lincoln shelves off in 3, Baps shelves off. Williams Grove just too damn far around sometimes. So I think it's just a product of that track features and the runs you can get. You can diamond one end, get a run, and throw a slider on the next. Like that character it has creates some of that for sure, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope everybody can come out and make it. My plan is to try and have our I think we're going to do the Halloween thing. I know it's like the day after or 2 days after, but I think we're still trying to do maybe not Halloween, but more or less just have a kind of a candy handout for drivers behind the grandstands like they have been doing. And, it'll probably be right at dark. You know what I mean? It gets dark 5 o'clock there then. So try and do that. And we got some other little ideas. They're just kind of starting to, I wouldn't say just start to form, I guess, but, we're really starting to kind of, now that some of the big races are past, starting to focus on. It's kind of hard to shine over top of the Tuscarora 50 or National Open or Knoxville or Eldora. I mean, it's kind of hard to go out promoting your race while those are going on, and you're kind of just being shadowed by them,
Yeah, it gets pushed off to the side until people's focus changes. I think after Natty, that week after Natty is done, I think that's a big week to really put a full court press on, because that's the big ones. You get the Knoxville, and then you get to Tusky, and then you get the Natty Open, and then it's like, okay, what's left? And I think that's a lot of it ends up being World Finals conversations, but it needs to be, whether it's the BAPS Final Showdown or it's the Bridgeport race locally, that full court press probably like the Monday after Natty is like, okay, now what? And
I think a lot of people are like myself, they get past Tuscarora 50 if they're a race team and you legit get your calendar out and you count how many races you have left. Like that's something I feel like I do every year. We get to Tuscarora 50 and then you're like, okay, we got National Open, but what do we got before National Open and after National Open? So you start doing your logbook, you're looking at your calendar, and it's kind of like, okay, well, this race pays this race pays that, trying to figure out where you're going to lap your engines down at. You know what I mean? I think every race team kind of does that. So,
yeah, you're starting to see some of it, right? We're friends with Kyle Keene, and he said, I'm done for the year based on my laps, based on my motor situation. He's new to the 410 ranks, but he decided he's done. And he could go, but the schedule, the money, the timing, the way the season's gone, like those plans are formulating, like you just said, at this minute for all these teams and going, what can we do? What's left? What do I have left in the shop?
Yeah, and I'm sure fans are kind of that way too. I mean, everybody can see now there's like no Sunday races, which is good. I talked to some promoters at the beginning of the years when they're doing their schedules. I'm like, listen, y'all need to remember it's kind of hard to race against, footballs on Sunday. You know what I mean? I think the vast majority of sprint car racers are probably NFL fans. I would say 75%. And I'm going to say that out of them 75%, 50% of them would much rather just at this time of year, sit on their couch or sit outside on their deck and watch football.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I could hear that. Jack Gunter here asked a question. In your opinion, what is the perfect layout / size for a track, and how would it be prepared?
I personally think that a place like, I'm going to say somewhere between like Sharon and Baps is about perfect. I sometimes wish Sharon straightaways were just about 100 feet longer, but I wish they had the banking of Baps. But I think the way that Babs builds a cushion, and I think the way that you kind of have two completely different ends, I think is cool. So like somewhere between like a Babs and a Sharing, I think that's where I would have to go. I mean, ultimately, probably one of my favorite tracks to race at is Fremont, but if I had to just pick one to build, it would somewhere be between the two.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people about BAPS, and there's people that live around here that go to BAPS and still don't understand how good it can be and how good it's been most years in 410 racing. And it's probably one of the better 410 shows that gets put on every year throughout the year consistently. This year's been a little up and down, but
I
it's
truly
something
believe
about the place and the shape.
Yes, and I've always said this. I feel like Williams Grove with having two different corners is great. I just think if they ever decided to cut the straightaway where the grandstands end, like instead of the straightaway keeps going past the grandstands, like if that was like the start of the corner and you parked everybody on the rigs outside turn 1 and 2, I think Williams Grove would be a badass racetrack if that was the case. But it has to keep the same turn 1, essentially, just move it more toward the flag stand.
Yeah.
Because I think 3 and 4 to Grove is really fun. I do. If you get the cushion, it's really fun.
Yeah, and you can use most of it. I mean, how many times in the last 10 years can you say you were more than 60% up in turn 1 and 2?
A lot. And it's gotten better. Like the last I'd say 2 months, they've actually gotten a massive curb down there. And then like the Speed Week show that we won where Anthony crashed himself.
He did. Yes.
Like him and I were running all the way out and getting into turn 3. All the way out. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was like old school Williams Grove. I thought that was the coolest. Like, because you got to be so good to get out there, get the gas, and carry your speed on exit. And I thought that was really cool. Like I think turn 3 to Grove. I think if we had shorter straightaways, obviously you'd be going slower, and then I think you'd see more slide jobs. Like right now, when was the last time you see a slide job in turn 1 at Williams Grove?
Not very often.
You don't ever have. There's
not one that's worked out.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Not one that is supposed to be a slide job. Like people might pull a slide job, but it's not clear.
Right.
So you say move the haulers out to 1 and 2. So sounds like you're a fan of just moving the haulers out of the infield from a fan perspective. That's the biggest thing we hear.
Then I wouldn't get no fine for leaving.
You go fines. You can leave whenever you wanted.
I truly believe that. I think that you could open. I mean, so Williams Grove has probably the biggest fan base and season pass ticket holders in all of Pennsylvania. Has to have. I mean, like people don't realize. People will say like Williams Grove, there's nobody there on Friday nights. Well, Williams Grove is so huge that on a bad night at Williams Grove, if you took all them people to Lincoln, it'd look like Lincoln on a good Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Like a bad night at the Grove is still a normal Saturday at Lincoln. Like the Grove holds so many.
You see that front grandstand all sprinkled, but you forget there's a whole hill over there and the whole damn infield that's twice the size of Lincoln.
And another backstretch grandstands.
Right.
Like people don't understand. And then you got all the season ticket holders that just don't go. Like that sometimes don't go. Plus all them suites up there. Williams Grove has a lot of people. And I feel like if you opened up that infield somehow to like think about the National Open, how many people you think Port Royal's got a lot of people in the infield? Hey, you got a
National Open infield. It's standing shoulder to shoulder. It's damn near hard to find your group when you come through the infield. Saturday.
Right. So if you opened it up and got rid of the rigs and the haulers, then you can make even more money.
Do that and make that like Port Royal has with the family section.
There's no such thing as a family section
at Port Royal.
Dirt track racing.
I mean, I wouldn't be in there, but you can do that. You get these people away from some of these National Open people.
I looked at Port this past weekend. I think there was like 3,000 people in the infield. It looks like, and then there's like 10 in the family section.
Yep. Absolutely. The infield was nuts,
and the people in the family section are in there drinking beer still.
Yeah, I know a few of those.
So that's what my ultimate track would be. Take Williams Grove and chop the front stretch down.
Listen, we're coming up on 50 minutes already. And I appreciate your time so much, man. This, I know our fans that we have, the 3 or 4 that we do have, really wanted to hear from you. And we've been wanting to have you on here for a long time, so we appreciate the time. Give me your thoughts about the weekend, not necessarily from your perspective as a racer, because we know it didn't go great, but give me your thoughts on, how the Tuscarora 50 weekend went from maybe that 1,000-foot view, because you have some investment up at Port Royal, especially with the Weichert, which announced a 3-day show next year, which is a bold take, but we'll talk about that for another day. But I'd like to get your thoughts on the weekend and the surface between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And obviously, everybody's up in arms about Saturday. And listen, I don't want to get any of us in trouble by saying anything negative, but I think we also can have opinions and express what we feel and think, and we don't have to be right, clearly, because we're wrong a lot here. But I would like to get your take on kind of what you thought, how the weekend went with the track and the event.
I thought the event. I think Port Royal's event is great. I think it's no nationals, but it's good. You know what I mean? Like, they got enough stuff going on during the day. From, I think I heard a band playing to, they got the fair. I mean, it's Fair Week, man. Like,
just stuff to do all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to beat Fair Week. Everybody says about it every year. Fair Week. I mean, but I think the racing. I don't know. Like, I have, like, my opinion has my unbiased and my biased opinion on it, because we kind of sucked all weekend. I know.
I know that's hard to, like, put aside. I get it.
I think everybody, like, for myself, it's kind of like when Babs had the Outlaws here. Like, I felt like Port Royal is always so good. Like, it's technical from warm-up, maybe not warm-ups, but from time trials to heat to feature. I feel like you got to have a good race car and a good right foot in time trials, even during PHP week. Like, you can't go out there and just run wide open in time trials typically. So I feel like that brings it brings the driver back in me, or other people. What, the first 2 nights, I know that there was no need to even lift in time trials, or hardly even in a heat race. Like, you just run wide open. I think that's uncharacteristic of Port Royal a little bit. And it got really dirty before it ever got clean. Like, I'm not really complaining. I think they've had some issues with the weather, obviously. Like, I don't know how clay works, but, like, when you get 8 inches of rain, like, I feel like it's A, going to wash away, and B, maybe take some of the, some of the lime out, maybe some of the silt, all that stuff that needs to be mixed together to make good clay. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I'm not sure, but I know Monday when we were up there was a lot of sludge laying at the bottom of the track.
Yeah, they were scraping it off with the backhoe at one point.
Right, but the rest of the track is hard. So, like, to me, that's like a separation, or something. There was something, like, to me, I would ultimately think, okay, maybe there's some sort of separation between, the clay and the dirt and the silt and all the ingredients of clay. I don't know. I'm not a dirt expert, but it just seems like something's different there at Port since we got all this rain, since Speed Week. And it went from being like wide open.
They've had 2 or 3 episodes this year of, like, massive rainstorms.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
a couple of different times throughout the year.
They told me that they had like 16 inches of rain from, like, Knoxville to Tusky weekend.
Yeah, I believe it.
And I mean, like, if you think about that, like, it's obviously got to wash the dirt away, wash clay. And, like, I can honestly say, as a driver, Port Royal seems very flat down in 1 and 2, like, massively flat. There's, like, no banking compared to what we're used to.
Compared to what you're used to, or just in general?
What's that?
You already answered it.
Yeah. So like, I feel like the track's just different for us regulars. And then, we went from kind of being wide open to, obviously, Saturday. I'm not really sure what happened there. I'm really surprised we didn't get track work. I really am, because tires were being worn very hard in heat races.
Yeah.
And
it was wearing in the heat pretty bad too. Okay.
Oh,
I did not know that.
I even told Troy before the heat race, I'm like, dude, I know what you just seen Macri do in the heat race before you, but, like, I'm telling you, I think I lost second because I was trying to make speed through the middle and the track was dirty in my heat up top. Like there was no way I could have just went out there and just railed the top. I'd have destroyed another race car. So I told him, I said, the last 3 laps I dropped down and just ran the bottom. I actually felt like it was like cleaned off and maybe not rubbered up, but almost kind of felt like it was getting abrasive then. And I don't think I was wrong. I really don't. I think the top cleaned off, and then you got some guys out there that just have massive kahunas on them, and they just send it.
Yep.
So, but I definitely think that it was starting to rubber up or get abrasive down in the bottom, even in the 4th heat that I was in. Which then you watch like heat 6, and like I think Rico ran the bottom after the first lap, and Cisney run the bottom, and it's like, well, that's obviously the place to be. So, I just thought there would have been some track prep. I don't know that there was rubber down the bottom yet, so I think doing a little track prep up top would have maybe saved the racetrack and saved the race. And kind of honestly, that nobody talks about the heat races or the day other than the feature, and that kind of sucks because it's a hell of an event to be kind of washed by the wayside of the rubber down surface.
Yeah, and we were there on Monday, right? And they reworked the track, and it's still, I'm sure it still took rubber, but it delayed it. So why don't you do it for the biggest race?
I think with the sun being down Saturday, if they'd have done, they wouldn't have needed to do that kind of extensive track prep.
No, that's true. Yeah.
They could have went out and did probably a quarter of what they did on Monday, and it would have helped. Just because the sun's down and it's 65 degrees, and
it was cool.
Yeah, so like I think they could have spent. I don't know. I would never tell Steinley what to do. I do try and sometimes give him a little insight from a racer's perspective and let him do his thing. But I feel like if they would have took maybe 20 minutes and just took his little tiller out there, maybe even just 1 pass, maybe 2 max, I felt like your racing would have been freaking awesome.
Yeah, and I think I agree, and I can only assume standing there watching that he thought after the B main that there was enough left for people to spread out and race in the A. That's the only thing I could think, because there was, I think, a couple people kind of were ripping the top middle-ish in the B a little bit. They were spread out a little. They weren't around the rail. That's my only assumption. After watching the B, they felt happy with what they saw. But you could tell pretty darn quickly. Rico ran the top early, in second place, so it's basically clean air. Could make enough speed, but as soon as he got the lead, he went down like immediately and never left because he knew he had to, and it was the only way he was going to win the race. And I don't blame them at all for the hand that they were dealt with the weather up into the A. But I feel like there was a decision that was made that was just the wrong one by the inaction, because they put some water down after the heats, or was it right before the B? Because there was no dash, right? So it was they canceled the C. So they ran some water on it at some point.
No, they ran a C and a B.
They canceled the C the night before.
C the night before,
yeah. So, but they put some down, and it was pretty good. It was okay. But for a 50 lap A coming, I feel like something had to be done, even if you were kind of happy with it. For it to last for 50 laps, I don't know if that just seemed like the right thing. And even with that intermission, it wouldn't have even had to hold anything up, because the way the introductions get done, they took some time to roll you guys out there. Even if they rolled you guys out in a little different staggered formation down toward the inside wall to get the equipment by around the top lane, there was plenty of time, and it would not have interrupted the program. So but it's hard for me to sit here and say that they, like, it's easy to sit here and say that they need to do this or do that. Like Steve Steinley is probably, I'm going to say, one of the best in the area. If he's not the best, he's the second best track prepper in Pennsylvania. And I would say in the last couple of years, I think he is the best the last couple of years. So I think he probably just misread it, or, he was hoping that, we hadn't had a track that was kind of cleaned off all weekend. It seemed like it went from being like locked down wide open to like kind of like dirty, and I think he was just trying to, I honestly think in his mind it was just going to get cleaned off and be like old Port Royal, where it just got black all over, and it didn't do that. It went from being dirty to rubbered up like nothing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. think about Port Royal with the
Sorry.
Weicker. I mean, that thing got black all the way across with like
Yep.
no rubber. Like it might have the last like 3 laps. I can honestly say I might have felt just a little bit of rubber at times, like getting into one in the middle. But I just feel like that they are misreading the racetrack too. And like I said, maybe it's due to all this rain they got, and maybe it's stripped the track of some of the nutrients it needs to have a good surface.
Yeah, and I know a lot of fans were disappointed with the way it went, but I'm sure the most disappointed out of everybody is probably Steve. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
he takes a lot of pride in that track.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's his baby. He likes to play with it. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I'm sure it'll be in the back of his head for sure. The next couple big weekends they have up there next year and the year after.
For sure.
I mean, them guys don't forget about stuff like that. It's like losing a race on the last lap. You know what I mean? You don't forget that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed for sure. So you said you have a bunch of races left this season, 13, I think, which sounds like a lot. I feel like we're like about to wrap up, but inevitably one of the National Open nights will get rained out because that's what happens at National Open.
You're a hater.
I'm not a hater. It's just weather, buddy. I can't control
know.
it. I'm sorry, Chris. That's just the way the world works.
Thank God it's not 3 nights though.
Oh, shit.
The place doesn't race like Port Royal, so thank God it's not 3 nights.
I don't think we could survive another 3-night camping trip together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my question I do every time because we're going to get you out of here. I think we're about that point. So I've asked this to every driver we've had on that we've never had on before. And I know you're a guy that won't shy away from this, so I'm asking it. You got to name me 2 drivers, someone you've loved racing with over your course of your career. And listen, it could be anybody, no matter what. Someone you have a great time racing with. You love racing around. It's a great time. And somebody who's a pain in your ass to race around. Not for necessarily being dirty, but just someone hard to pass, someone that races you really hard for good reasons or bad reasons, one of each.
I think my favorite person to probably race around is Lance. Always has been. I mean, in 5 years, I might say that about Anthony, but over the course of my 15 years here, I've raced with Lance a lot. I've learned a lot just by racing around him, or being beaten by him, that's simple. I've learned so much. And then I would say probably the biggest pain in the ass. Everybody's going to expect me to say Freddie. I would say it's not Freddie. I would honestly say probably the biggest kind of pain in the ass to race with is probably like Brent Marks. He's really hard to pass. He's really good with moving his car around to kind of just disturb your racing ways. Like if you can't just get in front of him, like he'll move his lane or line and just block you just the right way enough, or just plain change lines on you, and then it's hard to pass him. And I think that's made it really hard to race with. And a lot of times you may slide him or pass him, and he'll pull like a nasty slide job on you, and then you're stuck. Like then he makes his move. Like I would have to say Brent's probably one of the biggest pain in the asses to race with a little bit.
And it's funny because
Freddie's
it's
not
funny saying
saying
that.
I've just moved him over the years.
Well, and yeah, listen, and I've seen him do those things, right? Where his car may not be great and he's playing defense, but by the time that you get back, he's gone because the car came in. So like he knows that stuff, and he's been good, like being, kind of a student of his racecraft over the years. When he was really good that year, he would make those aggressive moves to save a spot because he knew that's one less I have to do later when this car comes back to me.
Correct.
And
yep.
It makes a lot of sense to what you're saying and being a pain in the ass because you're like, I'm better right now. Let me go. Like,
yeah.
But he'll fight for every inch there. So
yeah, he's very methodical in his moves.
Speaking of Brent Marks, because this has come up in our chat here a lot throughout the episode, and I don't know if anybody saw his tweet because he's not usually too outspoken, but he talked about how kind of the racing has gone downhill this year a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Crybaby. No, I'm kidding. I mean, come on, I had to say it.
That's fair.
I mean, I have a hard time. I mean, it's hard to disagree. It's hard to agree. It's hard to disagree. I think racing needs something to make it a little a little more unhooked. Like the cars are just so locked in the racetrack. You got to find something. You know what I mean? So I don't know that I agree or disagree with him. I truly wish that we could just. I wish we could have left the 2-inch wicker bill alone. I know that's what he's talking about, the wicker bill. That's a fact. Like he was one person that was not for the change, and rightfully so. Why would he want to change? He's on the 2-inch wicker bill. He's hard to beat. Simple as that. So I kind of understand his fun.
Drop his phone. Maybe.
You jumping
You there?
Me? No.
Yeah, you cut out there. Okay.
I'm on an old S20 right now, so that's probably it. I honestly wish Hoosier would give us more options for tires. I think I don't care what wicker bill we're on. I just wish that we could be more like the late models, and a tire compound would be a little more than just everybody's got what they got. Like everybody's on the same tire. We're racing, $120,000 race cars, and we're mandated a $320 gray rear tire, and there's only one of them. You know what I mean? I just think Hoosier could do a better job when it comes to giving us more product, more options. Like I'm sure they have a line made to make, say, 92-inch left rear tires. Well, guess what? Nobody buys 92-inch tires. So, find another rubber, maybe a rubber from a late model. I don't even know, but find us another rubber to go to a softer and a harder. Like what we have right now is so in the middle. It's like what I would call, it's like the transgender tire,
Do you think we'll ever get there? Maybe because they do late models. Do you think we'll ever get there with?
I don't know. I probably shouldn't have said what I said, but anyway, go ahead. It's something that High Limit and World of Outlaws are going to have to tell Hoosier they have to do it.
Yep. That's where it'll start,
and that's the only way it's going to happen. I truly believe. Otherwise, it's easy for Hoosier. You're making one tire. This is, I think nobody would be complaining about Hoosier if they just gave us more options. But they only give us one option, so then automatically you got people who say, "Well, let's make an American racer too. Like, let us run an American racer." But we just need another option. The medium tire that they offer is too hard, way too hard. If they could find something like they used to back in the day, where you had a tire that was basically like an RD12, guys would run them. It would time trial them, or D10. Like D10's too soft, but like an RD12 was like the next step of the softest. Guys would run them. They were more like a heat race tire, but guys would run them in the feature, but they would fall off on lap 12, halfway through a 25 lap feature. Where then they made an RD15, and they made like D10, RD12, D12, RD15, D15. They had 5 different compounds, and I thought that was back. That was back when they had the best racing. That was back, when Doug Esch was in the Leach car and Fred was still racing probably the Haas car.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Around that sounds right time.
Yeah, I would say it'd be the Leach car, the Haas car, and maybe the 77 for Lance.
Yeah.
No, it'd probably be Greg in the 77.
I think Greg, yeah.
Greg, yeah. So it's just like one of the things where, like, dude, just if they would just give us a better options. Yeah.
So couldn't you do the same thing if you're going to get real crazy? The wicker bill, don't just make everyone run the same thing. Give you options, nuns, 1 or 2. Give it a limit, or even do dish wing or flat wing. You choose. The more options you have, the more combinations teams can play with. Maybe opens that gap a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really. The dish wing and the flat wing are kind of a tad bit before my era. When they had dished wings. I think I hit the last year, 2009. I think when I ran for my dad just at Lincoln, they allowed a dished wing or a flat wing with a wicker bill, 1-inch wicker bill. So I was kind of in the transitional period. Other than that, I ran through with funky wings. So, I don't know that I have a very good opinion on a dish wing. there's some guys that are like all for it, but I would still take the flat wing with a wicker bill over a dished wing all day long. And even I said that even at Selinsgrove, I still think that you have an advantage there. But
Just give guys an option.
yeah, I mean,
It
like
would be,
at least,
but at what cost, I guess.
I mean, like it's not when you have a dished wing. I feel like everybody's bottom side of the wing is the same. The top of the wing still the same. Just no different than a flat wing. Flat wing, you don't work with the top, you work with the bottom. You understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we all work on the bottom side of the wing right now, which is kind of a pain in the ass. It's like flipping an airplane upside down. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a pain in the ass to be, working with all these, and the sanctioning bodies probably don't realize how much people are messing with the bottom of the wing, trying to put a little, an extra half an inch here, or half an inch there, or taking it away here, and taking just for different feels of the race car because you can feel it. So I don't think the flat wing's bad. I just think, maybe we should go back to the 2-inch wicker bill for like anything under a 4/10 mile track. You know what I mean? Or
like a short track package or shorter track package.
Yeah, or even just say you can't put the 2-inch wicker bill into a feature. Like,
yeah.
I actually don't mind that idea because it had gotten to the point where everybody would time trial their 1-inch or 1.5 inch, and then they would run it in the heat and run a 2-inch in the heat race pretty much. And there was absolutely zero passing in heat races the last couple of years because if there was any chance that you were going to be in a slick part of the racetrack, you just bolt a wicker bill and make sure you stay locked in. Like you would just ride the momentum from the moisture right through the slick because the wing, the wicker bill would just keep the rear end of the car down. Like you wouldn't have to worry about hitting the slick spot of the track and then lighting the tires up. You know what I mean? So like,
well, but you're saying about unhooking the cars, doesn't that option then hook the cars back up with more wicker bill?
What I'm saying is like make it so that way you can't run a 2-inch until A main or B main. Till it's a main.
So at that point, the cars would get grip back in it when the track doesn't have it.
Correct.
Versus running wide open through a heat and to be no passing in the heat, fast guys.
Right.
It all starts.
I mean, heat races the last couple of years, and not this year. I actually feel like heat races were pretty decent everywhere this year, better than the last couple of years.
They felt more like a formality the last few years, especially at Williamsgrove.
Yeah.
Like wherever you started, you did. Wherever you filed out off 2 is where you were going to finish, unless something happened.
Right. I mean, it's still Williamsgrove. It still happens a lot, but
yeah.
I feel like it's gotten to the point where the heat races this year are better, but not always the feature. I will agree with Brent in a sense where like maybe there's a way of making this work for kind of everybody to keep the racing good all night long. And I would have to say that if I was gonna not play sides and pick what I think is just best, maybe a little more work for teams to know when you can put it on and when you can't, because it would, it's like nothing else, like everything else. You would have to just learn when you can or can't do this. No different than when you can or can't put a new tire on. You can put a wicker bill on then. So I feel like if you want to make everybody happy and still keep heat races good, because I actually think the World of Outlaw heat races have been better this year. I've seen guys come from the third row, like Donnie and David and Carson. Like them guys have come from the third row in heat races to run, make it to the dash or start 6th or 7th and run third just outside the dash. You didn't see that in years past. Everybody just run around and everybody literally, if they passed a car, that was remarkable.
You saw a lot of part of it was the track, maybe a little bit too, but Knoxville, we complain about that format because of the way the heats are, but we saw quite a bit of passing. It felt like in those heats too.
Yeah. I thought that there was way better racing in heat races this year with 1-inch wicker bills, but I honestly, I will kind of go with Brent and say it hasn't done as much come feature time as I kind of expected. You know what I mean? Like at times it is tough to get into the racetrack. This weekend here at Port on Saturday night, I do believe that the 1-inch wicker bill saved all the blown tires. I think if we would have been allowed to have a 2-inch wicker bill, I think people would have blown tires with 15 laps to go.
I think it would have been if it was 52 laps, you'd have seen blown tires the way they looked after he came off the
I
racetrack.
wish
If that
I
was
wish we would have went 52 laps. That's why me and Brent put tires on at the break.
yeah,
Just saying.
I crazy.
Yeah, but I do think that if you had a 2-inch wicker bill on Saturday, I think tires would have blown with 15 to go, because all the downforce on the back of that wing would have ate the tires up, and the rubber would have been unreal on the straightaways and in the corners. But instead, it took
the 1-inch wicker bill change has you talked about messing with the wings. Everyone's fighting to get that amount of downforce back by messing with the wings. Maybe it didn't do anything, right? Because all throughout the season in the heats, right, it maybe have made it better, but in these features, with all the things you guys have been doing to get the downforce back, and you can still tighten these cars up, that it hasn't made a change because of you guys have just found it in other areas.
No, I don't think so at all. I think I don't know the best way to put this. I think that you've seen guys struggle, like even myself right now, or Brad Sweet, or Brent. You've seen guys struggle that have a lot of ability, and I blame some of this on Hoosier, because I don't feel we deal with this about every year. You get through nationals, and it's like all of a sudden, okay, they're going to make the tire for next year, and all of a sudden, people go from being like pretty good going into nationals to like, man, they're not very good, because everybody kind of stashes tires. Like I bought my tires, say 2 weeks before nationals. You know what I mean? Like I got my tires, sat in the shop, so Chad can mount them, size them, groove them. He wasn't going with us, so he mounted them all up, sized them, grooved them, siped them, got them ready to go. So when we got out there, they were already done. Like we could even take them not on wheels and just know that when we picked one up, we knew it was going to mount, and we were ready to go. Save some work for how grueling Knoxville already is. And like I can tell you now, like I ran an old tire in the B main on Thursday night at Port, and my car felt freaking awesome. Drove by Mike Wagner and just kept on trucking. I felt like I should, and that's really the only time I felt good. And that was an old tire.
You're talking batch codes. They got that last run done, or have whatever laying around, and then.
And I'm not saying I know what they're doing. I'm not saying that by any means, but it always seems like Hoosier does change a tire. Like if it was just one team saying about it, it'd be one thing. But when you got multiple teams saying they go from feeling the right rear tire underneath of them to it just feels like you got a big old balloon. It's obviously not just a car or a driver. Like we're pretty good at getting cars to work, but when you got, for myself, for instance, you got 10 wins this year, and all of a sudden you can't even feel the car, and you're like, man, there's really nothing changed. It's the same style car. It's a brand new car. Scale's good. Shocks are all good. You know what I mean? You got 4 brand new torsion bars in it, and you go out there and you feel like you're sitting on an ice skating rink, and you're like, man, I got to change something. And you this past weekend, we get a little frustrated, and we're like, man, we got to fix our car. So, you try and start thinking outside the box just a little bit, and you try maybe a little different bar combo that isn't like it's off the wall. It's stuff you've done at a place like Port before, but you can't feel the change. Sometimes you only feel the change when you bolt another tire on. That makes any sense. And like, I'll be honest with you, Saturday when we changed tires at the break, I wasn't very happy during the break when we changed tires. And the reason was because the tires were on top of the mule for spares were the ones for my heat race. And I already knew I didn't feel good in my heat race. Like I wasn't very good. So like, it's like, okay, I'm going to put them on. I don't feel like I'm going to be better. I wish we had different tires, but we're going to play the tire game. We're going to play longevity here. We're going to hope people start blowing them. And then next, one after another, and we still got tread.
Yeah, you're in the top 10 and you got something left.
Right. But I know Saturday we had obviously 2 brand new tires on, because you time trial a new one, ran the heat race, and then obviously put another brand new one on for the feature. And, that was another new tire. Like Thursday night, we still had some old tires left from our Knoxville trip that we had put on for the B main, ground them, went out and honestly kind of felt like a badass a little bit. Felt like me. You know, if you can pass, honestly, let's face it, if you can pass Mike Wagner at Port Royal, he's been pretty damn good up there this year.
Yep.
So,
got something
especially when the track's wide like it was in the B on Thursday, I think that's when it started getting good. But like I felt really good, and then we took them tires off and go out for the feature, and
just didn't work.
Just didn't feel good. Drove up to past like 6 cars from the start. Everybody went to the bottom and drove around some guys, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm right back to feeling like an O1 again. You know, feeling like just every other Tom, Dick, and Harry that, you know, hasn't won a big race up there this year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, right.
It's frustrating. You feel like somebody who hasn't been there, and they scratch their head every time they go. You know, that's what we were doing this year, and I think that a lot of it had to do with. I think a lot of it has to do with tires. You know, it's something that we're struggling with right now.
And the crazy part is you talked about having different options potentially, but they can't get this one compound to be consistent, let alone 2 or 3. So holy shit, you guys could be just with your freaking eyeballs spinning out of your head, figuring out what the hell's wrong with your car when it's a variable
you could try a different compound.
Yeah,
well, it's a variable you shouldn't have to mess with. Like you should just bolt it on and know I got what I got. It's consistent. Imagine one compound. Now they can screw up 3 of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what goes into late model tires, but I know they have like a LM or late model 2, or I forget what it's called, but it's there's a 1, a 2, and I think a 3, and like nobody will run a 2 because they're junk. Like everybody's on a 1 or a 3, I think it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of odd that that's how it is. It's kind of like, okay, well, why is the 2 so junk? And then next thing you know, you'll probably hear somebody be like, oh yeah, the 2s are great now. You know what I mean? Like it takes it one time. Like people were like, oh man, they changed something about them and now they're good. Now the 1's no good. You know what I mean? I feel like we have that in sprint car world now with 1. Might as well make it 3.
Yeah. At least you put some control back in your hands. You can feel something, you know?
Something like Denny Hamlin talked about that on his podcast months ago with Goodyear. They don't reuse tires because different date codes change the tire in the field. So I wonder if that's kind of the same kind of thing where the tires are just old and cured. I don't know.
Absolutely. Has to be something like that. Or maybe what it is, a lot of times they're not cured. Like that's another reason why I bought my tires weeks before Knoxville. So that way,
behind on production, they don't have time to cure them.
I mean, you know, you get to the point where we go and buy tires at Hoosier for the business, and like they don't have certain sizes; they just don't have them. So, at some point in time, you think to yourself, "Okay, well, they got to be making them, and then you're going to get them that following week or 2 weeks, whatever. You know, the shortest amount of time that they possibly can let them sit on the floor before they let them go out the door. That's when you're getting them. So they're not as cured as long as something that like is readily available all the time. So
what a mess.
There's and that goes back into like what I was telling you earlier about, like, you know, sometimes you get frustrated as a car owner and driver, and I think that's why you see rides change this time of year. A lot of frustrations with this kind of stuff
blowing up.
Yep.
So yep.
So Chris? I'll ask one last question. I won't use mine because I'm guessing the Wake Memorial and National Open are probably Danny's most wanted to win. What are your thoughts on the Selinsgrove date being moved to Lincoln? Came out today.
Oh man, I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. Somebody's going to ask me that.
The
chat's been asking about it too.
Chat's been asking you that, so I'm getting it off here because they keep coming back around and around and around and around.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'll just say this: that the writing was on the wall, and I'm not surprised. Regardless of the reason, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, like I have no problem with Steph. I feel like I have a good relationship with Steph. That being said, I mean, like I talk to a decent amount of people and some people from Selinsgrove, and like they tell you what's going on. Like you don't want to hear it, but you hear what's going on, and then you get pictures of things that are going on. Like I know they posted a video and stuff, and I'm not even talking about really the locks. I know they posted that, but like you see things, not just hear them, and you're like, man, I just don't know I don't know what to think about it. I like Ethan and Reese and Steph, and I don't want to see Selinsgrove go away. I really don't. I make a pretty good living at Selinsgrove.
You have 9 wins there from my count.
And I think that's one of the best racing big tracks still in the country. Yeah. Like, I mean, that place is so big, but yet it can put on some freaking phenomenal races.
100%.
You know, for how big it is. I'm okay with Lincoln getting it. I'm glad that the race is staying here in PA. I hope the fans come out and support it, no matter where it is, or if they add another race somewhere else. I like when people, show up and show out, So it's good that it's staying in the area. I applaud Jerry and Lincoln for taking on another race that wasn't on their calendar. I know they've lost a lot this year. They've probably canceled some they shouldn't have. They would probably even admit that to you. But, let's just hope that, the big events may be something that these tracks can get on board with. And we can have more big events where we're not competing against each other. Maybe that's what kind of Lincoln's looking at right now with why they canceled Saturday. Maybe they don't want to go against Tuscarora 50. Maybe they don't want to,
maybe it's
go against the Weichert per se. It'd be great if he didn't. And tracks could just work together a little bit better and make bigger events and not race against each other.
And they would all make more money, and theoretically, we're not lose.
Make the
Hopefully.
bigger events bigger, and
Like,
they
we
won't
saw
be losing
Lincoln-
money opening for 25 fans to come.
That Outlaw Lincoln show always, the Gisborne Clash, always had a good turnout. I would say this year was a little bit different, but
I mean, it's going to be tough no matter what. I mean, prices keep going up for things, and everything gets more expensive. But like I said, if everybody, I mean, by that time of year, man, there's not that much going on, and maybe it'll be really good for. I mean, Lincoln's lost like 15 races this year. Some of them are maybe a little self-inflicted because they canceled when they really shouldn't have, like this past Saturday. But if their mentality is don't go against the big races, then I applaud them. I have a different taste in my mouth if that's what their mentality is. Then I applaud them for stepping down. And hopefully Port steps down for maybe Lincoln and Williams Grove, and Williams Grove steps down for our Wycombe Memorial. And you don't have to stretch things thin. You can maybe even take a whole weekend off. Like take a whole weekend off.
Right. Like honestly, we saw it happening here lately. If Clinton County gets that date after or Knoxville weekend and
Kings Royal. Yeah.
It does really good for Clinton County. It does really well for those teams that aren't going to go to the Weichert and be ultra competitive. They can go there and learn stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think they're far enough away, right? Obviously it's different. But I mean, hopefully the schedule reflects what you're saying, where next year we come out and we don't see so much competition and a pissing match between all these tracks.
Yeah, I think Speed Week kind of shows all that. Like in reality, nobody's racing against each other at Speed Week.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it really didn't matter what night it was. Every track did really good, I thought, during Speed Week. Like even Hagerstown was good. Yeah. So like I think people could look at Speed Week and be like, man, there's 10 nights in a row or 9, whatever it is, 9 nights that we had in a row almost. And like everybody showed up. Like the fans showed up. Nobody was competing against. I know it's Speed Week, but maybe that's how maybe that's how people need, like maybe Jerry could have 2-day opener at Lincoln or, like he does. And let Port have their opener. I know they're not going to do that, but man, it'd be kind of cool to see tracks work that way, wouldn't it?
Well, they need to, because
be amazing.
They're all right now going under this banner of every race is special, and I'm dying on the hill of if every race is special, no race is special, because they're calling all these races special, but nobody's showing up. Right? They're going to go pick what they want to do, and every race can't be a memorial, and every race can't be a tribute. And I get what they're trying to do with it, but it's overdone. And the big races will always be the big races. But this competition, when I'm running this memorial against your memorial, and then you split the fields or people are out of motors and nobody shows up, fans or cars, then what? And then
like this weekend,
it's diluting the product.
And Lincoln, if it's not like this is where I have a huge problem with what Lincoln has done here lately, is like not announcing what the race is going to pay until like the Sunday before the race, like this coming weekend. Like they don't promote the Rack Daddies race is $7,000 until yesterday. Now I knew it was going to be something along them lines because I talked to Jerry, but like think about the Labor Day duels, like they went from telling everybody it's going to be a $25,000 to win show on Saturday. And I told everybody, I'm like, I don't understand why you would pay your $25,000 on Saturday and Sunday's going to be like, say 10. Like that's not how big shows work. But then they didn't post it was going to be 15 until the week of. Yeah, and you got like fans and drivers, and they're like, well, what happened to this 25,000 win show? It's like, well, it's not there. It's like, y'all need, they got to communicate. And to me, number one, communication has to come from racetracks. And I think that Lincoln in general lacks that a little bit. I think that falls back into your category. Like every race is like a tribute race, when nothing against Rack Daddies, but like Rack Daddies is not a special race. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the Steve Smith tribute. It's not a Weldon Sterner. It's not an Outlaws or Opening Day. Like, it's nothing against them. Like, I appreciate everything they do. Like, obviously, like, we don't want to lose people putting up the money, but I agree with what you're saying. Like, not every race is an event. You know what I mean? And I think that maybe they could go sponsor, maybe a bigger event. Not trying to like tell them what to do with their money, but I do agree with like what you said. Every race is supposed to be special, and it's just not. It's over. It's almost
not
like
when you have as many as you do. You know what I mean?
Correct. And that's when I say just go back to just having some handicap shows. There used to just be a Pepsi night at Lincoln. It's just be Pepsi
I was just
night.
going to say that. Pepsi night. It was like,
Pepsi night.
It didn't mean a damn thing, but they called it Pepsi night.
Pepsi night, man.
Everybody
Handicap show.
At least.
Handicap show, dude. Fans miss handicap shows. So,
yeah, where'd they go?
We got Yellow Breeches 500s. Did you know that the Yellow Breeches? Did you know that the Yellow Breeches has 3 or 4 formats in one night? We got handicap. We got handicap.
You remember, I was out there for that night. I was listening to you listen. Okay, for everybody listening, the night that it sort of rain delayed it at Williams-Grove, and then they ended up getting the race in, right? They delayed it a little bit. I left, went home because I thought there was no chance in hell they were racing. And Danny had the car in the trailer and said, "I ain't doing this." And then he went in hard charger. But I digress. But we're standing there in the pits, and Danny and Lance and Justin Whittall, and I'm listening to Danny tell this story. Go ahead and explain that format and what they did that night.
So what people don't understand is how fucked up Williams-Grove is with Yellow Breeches races. Okay, it drives me nuts. I hate Yellow Breeches races. They're the worst paying shows at Williams-Grove. Period. We go there. Before we don't draw a pill. We get handicapped into our heat race, and then we go out in warm-ups and time trial, and then we draw an invert for the heats, and then we handicap the top 2 of the heat races for the feature.
That's amazing.
So how do you do all that?
It's so stupid.
Because you're just erasing the thing that you just did before.
It sounds like you're literally just playing bingo with the race car numbers.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's so dumb. Like, if y'all just want to, if you're gonna handicap the heat, like, and then so like that night we're talking about, you heard this too. I go out there and like I'm in the last group, the 3rd heat race, like 6th warm up group, which is time trials, and I'm like, okay, it's like me and Chase Dietz and I don't know, Lucas Wolf and like somebody else, and there's a 5th car, and I'm like, all right, perfect. Like, you're supposed to be handicap heat race, so like you expect everybody to be sort of like in my group, like the same speed, like fast cars,
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, we're gonna get lined up. And I'm coming off turn 2, green on the 48, going to green on the 48, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna ease into this. And like, I get to turn 4 to come down the front stretch. Now the next car, when they tell me we're going green on me, it's always me because they know I actually go. So like, I'm coming off turn 2, and the other guy's in turn 4, like almost to turn 4. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ease into this. We're all gonna get rolling at the same time. I have the biggest gap, which makes it easy for me to like roll into it and keep everybody rolling with me. I get to the flag stand, and the car in front of me that was, almost a half a track in front of me is now in the middle of 1 and 2. I'm at the flag stand. And I'm like, all right, we're okay. Well, like, nothing against the guy, but like, he was not a me or Chase Dietz or whoever else was, maybe Lane. I don't know who else was in the group, but like, he was not in the lane as in control as like what the rest of us would be. So like, my focus went from being like, I got to lay down some really good laps. Like, I got nothing to worry about here. I'm basically just racing by myself here, to like, okay, this guy's like 2 lanes off the inside guardrail and on the front stretch. Like, now I'm watching him, like, I'm catching you. And I really hope you don't spin out in front of me because it's not that you're like out of control, but like you're definitely not an experienced Williams Grove regular. You know what I mean? So like, it just ruined my whole time trials. You know, like, and then I'm like, it just pisses you off because now I'm handicapped for the second time in a row.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just the stupidest freaking format. Like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even supposed to be there. We weren't even supposed to go that way. It was a week after Knoxville, and we were supposed to take that Friday off and go to Lincoln on Saturday or Port on Saturday for the Dream Race. Said I had to wash my car Saturday morning because we started like 18th in the AMA.
Who makes that
And
decision?
drove through the field to like 6th or something, didn't you?
I think 5th or 4th.
Yeah, it was pretty big. So there's a comment. I don't know if you can see us at all, Danny, because I know you're just
I can see
audio.
you. I can see you guys.
So there's a comment in our thing from Brad Weatherby. He is a handicapped gentleman, and he has like a motorized wheelchair. And he said that every race is handicapped for him.
Have you ever met Brad is one of the coolest dudes every time.
Hey, is he the one that shows up with the trailer?
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does he have the track
wheels?
Yeah, tracks. They've been trying to foot race and stuff. Yeah, long
he's got
gray
like the
hair.
bulldozer tracks.
There's 2 of them.
He's one. Yeah,
there's 2 of them. So that's
they show up in
like
like a little
boots or whatever. Yeah,
it shows up in like a little 10-foot trailer.
Yeah. Him and his buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Every show's a handicap show for him.
Does he ride in the trailer or does he ride the truck?
I think if you. I don't know.
I mean, you could put a screen in there. He could probably be gaming all day long in there. I'm not sure. Like, be a little bouncy.
Oh, Chris Frank wants to know why 410 guys don't go on green.
Don't go on green.
Oh, wait, whoa. Okay.
Chris Frank blames other people for his mistakes.
Dan, you went on a rant a couple weeks back about shows taking too long. But when I see y'all go out there and idle around with green flag out for 4 minutes, it feels like, and nobody wants to go.
I go. I always go.
And then you go. And then feature time comes and the pace truck's making its laps and they're telling you how many laps. And I never fails. No one backs their damn car out until about lap 4 or 5. We could be on the racetrack. What have y'all been waiting on? We had fireworks for 25 minutes.
That's on them. Start the pace truck sooner then.
Fuel. You got to put that, keep that weight. Jay-Z,
dude, I hate sitting in my race car, so I know I got 5 laps. I'm not waiting until a lap. I'm not going down lap 1. I am the last car back down 9 times out of 10. But you got to realize my timeline is dependent on that pace truck. Start the pace truck sooner.
Hopefully they're listening. 3 laps. Get that pace truck doing about 90. Get this shit over.
It did get faster after that post. I swear to God, last time we were at the Grove, I told the guys, I'm like, man, that pace truck must be going fast because we're on lap 3 already. And I'm like, there's no time at all.
And listen, all those little things add up. These tracks, and Williams Grove isn't awful. They have their moments, but like Lincoln, man, do they find ways to screw around. Port on Monday, it just went on and on and on. And part of that was there was a lot of variables, but I feel like
Williams Grove's terrible.
More and more. It was
the Grove's terrible because they lock you into place. You must be. You don't say that because you can get out.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm the last.
He's like,
listen,
it's whatever. And I'm like,
you want to know how I know it? You want to know how I know Williams Grove goes late? I know Williams Grove goes late because my parents go to the Legion in Biggerville and they do last call at 11:45, and I can never make it there in time. I just want to go have a beer with my dad.
Yeah, you can't.
Sometimes.
Crazy.
All right, what if they park you guys on the outside?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think they should park all 410s on the outside.
There you
go. You're running first. You might as well go leave first, right?
I just think it makes sense to park 410 guys on the outside because technically, if
you guys are the first ones.
If Williams Grove got their shit together and built a gate on the backstretch, then you could literally close off a gate and a catch fence, and you could let your fans in the back pit area to see your 410 drivers while the 3 for racing.
Well, that's big brain stuff right there, man.
Think about that for a second.
I already thought about it. I love it. So convince Justin to do it.
I mean, you could literally put a gate. You could put a gate and a catch fence, like a movable catch fence up. I'm sure somehow or another. And
listen, Danny, we can't even. They have to water their asphalt pit areas to keep the dust down. They can't even clean those. You think you're going to get extra fences?
They put fences up this year, didn't they?
Yeah. See, Progress.
On the backstretch. Remember, Jeremy, you were bitching on Facebook about it.
Yeah.
And he
Made
got
them do
saved
it.
by the tire that almost hit him that
They
time.
got made to do that. Let's be fair. That wasn't their choice.
That's true.
Anyway.
That's true.
Chris, Jimmy, get him out of here, man. He's been
yeah,
here long enough. We
I
appreciate
thought there was
it, man,
that
so
one
much.
thing you all want to talk about Bloomsburg, and then he can leave.
Listen,
the
I don't.
tweet.
I don't have the tweet saved.
Well, you should.
I should.
Jay-Z does.
But
I
I
have it on my
do.
phone.
I do want to apologize because me and you got in a little Twitter beef
I don't think he cares.
a couple years ago.
I didn't think I knew one of you didn't like me at all.
You're talking to one that's saying sorry right now, but you
Yeah,
did
but-
give us a new nickname for him.
You called me Jimbo, said thanks for the follow because I know you were, and I understood
I
it
remember
after I
that.
walked the track because Bloomsburg was pretty it was pretty rough
Terrible.
that night, and
He's
I know
a-
you were. But I was like, I'm trying to defend it because now I'm the track killer. Apparently, I live closest to Bloomsburg and Selinsgrove, and they're just falling by the wayside. So I'll take the blame for it.
Just don't get anywhere
But-
near my favorite tracks, Jimmy.
They all call me Jimbo now, thanks to you. And I just want to let you know that.
It's in
Oh,
the
If
Discord.
you want it,
Oh, let me-
it's funny.
I kind of remember that tweet.
Flo couldn't go back and get it because it's probably been what 4. How long has Bloomsburg been dead, Jimmy?
Only
Jimbo.
a
3 years.
year. Only a year. Calm
Like
down.
dead.
Yeah, it was up.
This will
No.
be 2 years. This will be 2 years.
They ran last year until about halfway.
I wish this
But
was
yeah,
ran
2
slow
years
thing.
since they had big
Speedster.
cars.
Yeah.
We don't
All
count
right, yeah,
speedsters, we-
Speedsters.
here's
Shit.
the tweet.
That place was
there last
terrible.
year.
That place was
Early.
terrible. So much potential, but
I'll
so
say what I
terrible.
want. Thanks for the follow, Jimbo. So that lives in T2T lore and with all of our friends and everything. So I do appreciate it for that. Appreciate
Hey, that's actually kind of a nice tweet.
Yeah, it is. It wasn't that bad, especially, and it wasn't like that bad of an
Dude,
exchange. I
you're
was
still
just like,
salty. You're
He's still a
still
little salty. He's still a little salty. We'll have to
he-
fight
he
the National
really
Open and do drinks over it or something. This is
yeah.
he's still a little salty about the Jimbo thing because he knows when he does something wrong because we call him Jimbo and then he
Yeah.
knows we piss us off.
When I have an absolutely terrible take, they start calling me Jimbo. So
And then
That's okay.
sure.
and then I
I
put my
gotta-
Danny Dietrich hoodie on. It really pissed him off.
Yeah, there's a few things that piss me that get under my skin too. It's okay.
So, and a lot of people in this show feel like I'm the one that doesn't like you. And I've gotten some of your fans have called me out on it. And I was pretty honest and said, listen, it's not that I dislike. I hold you to a high standard in our area for performance and holding up that posse banner as a veteran of it, right? And that's what we talked about earlier a little bit about like, hey, you know your performance, like you want to be better too. It's not like you want to finish freaking win B mains and start 24th. Like that's not your goal.
Mhm.
But I hold you in a high standard. Freddie's the same way, right? When the big shows come around, where are we at? What's going on? We can dominate, win all these
I'll work
races,
on it.
and then where are we at? So
One of those fans, Jeremy. Look at this full circle moment. They're admitting to it now too.
And
Jennifer
Jennifer was actually the one who called me out the most, to be honest. So yeah,
That's all right.
and I was honest. Like, and I truly believe that. I stand behind it. And you know, in our circle of friends, I have favorites and I have people that I don't root for. But when it
No
comes
way.
to
Right, I know. We wonder who his
Listen.
favorite is.
I know
But I
who
don't
your
go
least
to
favorite was on the other day.
I don't go to what's that?
I know who your least favorite was the other day. Dude, you had a moment on Facebook.
Oh, well, that's other humans, not race car drivers. That's
But
different.
you had a moment.
I did. I guess so.
It was within your profession, just like a race car driver.
hey,
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Who got
it
you
came to me.
stuttered?
Yep, you've just been told, son.
I said what I said in person. I didn't go to social media, but you know, there's that. So,
Yeah,
I had
I'm
a
giving you a
question
hard
in my
time.
inbox. What?
He's giving you a
What'd
hard
you say?
time.
he's just giving you a hard time.
I wanted to hear it. I didn't hear it. I was talking.
Oh,
That's your problem.
I had a text from someone. Best up and coming racer, state of the sport with the new guys. So Central PA, what are some guys on your radar? They could be in 358 at this point, in my opinion, or early 410. Some young guys that you think will hold the banner here the next 5 to 8 years in our area.
Anthony Macri. I don't know.
Kurt, when you and Freddie are in the B main, man.
I mean, Anthony's still young.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very good point.
it'll be interesting because there's been some guys that have some talent. That really showed some. I shouldn't say have talent. They showed some really good potential this year, like Matt Campbell and Troy Walgeman and Aaron Bollinger. Like, okay, they all had. I'm gonna say this. They all had breakout seasons. Who's gonna follow it up with a better year next year?
Chris Frank.
Not a chance. Not a chance. He doesn't run. He only runs the bottom. That's easy. It'd be real easy to keep him behind you. You just go to the bottom.
What's Billy's excuse?
You got to ask Bill, Macho Man.
I can only talk trash because I have both their shirt on at the same time.
I thought Billy was going to win some races this year. He was like, every time he started to get some momentum, it felt like something happened. He was starting to get rolling there.
I agree.
He did the Danny thing. If you want to win, you have to crash sometimes. Except Billy kept getting crashed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to win, you're going to crash too.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run here, guys. My phone.
Do you want to give thanks to anybody before you get going? Any sponsors?
Just you guys, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I do appreciate it. It's kind of fun to not be so professional on an interview once in a while.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate you, man.
I started this S20 at 69%. I'm down to 4.
Oh, okay.
And it's dying.
Where's Lance pass you at? Savage comeback, Chris Frank. Thank you.
What do you say?
Where's Lance pass you at?
Oh, every time he's on the racetrack, Lance passes me.
Thanks, Danny. Thank you so much, Danny. Have a good
problem, guys. Thank you. Have a good night.
See you.
That was fun.
That was awesome, man.
Yeah, we've been waiting to do that one for a while. I'm glad everything, even with his phone ordeal today, he got that to work out. So thanks a lot to him for
a long time there. And he kind of turned the tables on you guys, at least.
Hey, I knew he would.
Seriously, and that's fine. I don't mind. I can take it. But I truly didn't hear what he said. What did he say?
It's what he said. He goes, no, I told you what he said. I forget what I said, though. It was like 10 minutes ago. A lot happened.
I still don't know what it was, Chris. What did he say when I was talking?
I don't remember.
Go back and watch the show. Give us a view, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But I was talking. How am I going to hear it? I guess you did. So fair enough. No, listen, I can take it. I don't care. I'm certainly not a perfect human. I certainly do things wrong, or I certainly can take criticism too. I don't really care, kind of, to be honest. So just someone like someone who wins a lot. If I'm good at what I do, I believe in what I do.
I think it was along the lines of that. Yeah. He was saying you had a situation or whatever, something like that.
Yeah. I started the situation because I precipitated the situation that happened to me on social media, and I left that open on my own, knowing that I was still okay with me. I didn't care. So there's that.
Yeah,
that was cool. That was cool though.
That was awesome. We knew that would be good. He kind of fits the vibe. You know what I mean, of what we do here, to be kind of just laid back in bullshit and speak our mind. He's the most outspoken guy. So
want to note,
appreciate that.
When I was doing some research there, being that he's only 2 wins behind Brian Monteith on all-time win list at Lincoln, is kind of cool. And only 1 behind Steve Smith at Williams Grove for 15th. So there's some chances here. Some things could happen. Move him up that win list. He's 6th at Lincoln. That was interesting. You don't realize that 64.
It's crazy
Lincoln
when you look
feature wins. That's crazy.
Look at the Lincoln win list and how
it's
top
like 200 for the 3 guys at like 200, almost 200.
Raymer, Steve Smith. Yeah.
And then you have Danny at 6 at 64, which is a lot of wins. Crazy.
We're just going to go over and recap the past. We weren't live, last Monday because it was Labor Day. So just want to quick hit some recaps on some races that did happen around here, and then quick preview before we get out of here on what's coming up this weekend. If you guys are a first-time viewer that came for, stick around. Tell us your thoughts in the chat, and we appreciate you watching. Whether you got to go to bed or not, whatever. But real quick, we're going to go through this. Last week, Williams Grove got rained out on Friday. Port Royal and Lincoln were both rained out on Saturday. That moved the Gobrecht Labor Day duel to Sunday at Lincoln, where Anthony Macri took down the win in a pretty good race. Eddie Quick. Chase Dietz second, Devin Borden third. He probably was worth the price of admission. He was ripping. Troy Wagaman, Danny Dietrich, Kyle Reinhardt, Tyler Ross, Ryan Smith, Aaron Bollinger, and Brandon Raymer. Your top 10. Any thoughts from this race?
It was good, and I missed when Macri passed Chase on that restart. Macri was in the lead, and I missed it. Apparently, they said he just got chased at the line before the yellow came out, and I was in 3 and 4, and I didn't see that happen. I was a little disappointed because Macri clean air end of race. I'm like, shit. I was hoping that was a restart with Chase and Macri to go at it 1v1 at the end there, with Chase in the lead. To be honest, and again, whether Macri won or not, but man, that was such a fun race to watch. Borden was unbelievable all night from bad time trials and just made it up all night, all night, all night. And some of the moves, the battle with him and Danny, especially through that race, probably the middle half of that race, Borden and Danny were just battling. And Devin had that racetrack under him that he could put it 110% and was getting stuff back from it, right? Like he wasn't even overdriving the car. He was getting everything out of it. The heat race between Chase Dietz and Matt Campbell, man, what a battle. Matt ran him down on the top and Chase was on the bottom, and what a blast. There were some very fun moments at this event. And Macri gets the win, did his job, did what he had to do. And it looked for a while like maybe it wasn't going to be, and he got it. He knew it was a long race. It was 40 laps. I think this was a 40 lap race.
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a long race but it didn't lack for action on a 40 lap race. Again, not knocking Port, but that 50 lap race it felt like a long 50 laps. This did not feel like a long 40 laps. It was entertaining and fun to watch. There was a lot of movers and shakers for sure.
Disappointing that they had 1 day rain out. I know they were really looking forward to having this as a 2-day race, but at least they had one really, really good race. Get in here, and Macri's just, doing Macri things, man. He's ripping right now.
Do love Strickler times 2 and Givlin making the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Labor Day that Monday then. We talked a little bit about this, kind of this whole week with Danny's, so we won't go too far into detail with some of this, but Logan Wagner gets the win over Chase Dietz, Michael Walter, Dylan Sisney, Jeff Halligan, Justin Whittle, Lucas Wolf, Mike Wagner, Devin Borden, and Danny Dietrich. Your top 10. Logan Wagner doing, what he does best there. They reworked the track a little bit. It kind of came down to a late afternoon show. It felt like the marathon, but I thought it was worth it. Good. It was a decent race, decent Labor Day classic.
Yeah, I was, as they say in poker, I was pot committed. I wasn't going anywhere when they reworked the track. I was there all day as it was. I wasn't going to leave now. But I drew the line at front wheel drive non-qualifier race. I drew the line there. I was out. See ya. I went through the tunnel. I was done. But Logan Wagner, he did his job. At the end of the day, he started up front, did the job he was there to do, and the track really, they added some speed to the track for sure when they reworked it, and he was really good, and Chase had another good run. Mike Walter with the top 3. Mike Walter actually just made a post today. I think he finished 4th in port points in that 77, and that's the best season that 77's had since we've seen it come around that I can recall. Overall. So shout out to Mike Walter. Dylan Sisney with a top 5. As we expected to see Dylan Sisney in the top 5 at a day show. At a day show. And then obviously we found out, if you were listening on Flow or you were at Port Royal, he got interviewed on Flow this weekend, and he's out of a ride after this year. Yeah. So he's looking for opportunities for 2025, which sucks for sure. Hopefully that he can put something together in the off season. I expect there's going to be movement. Obviously if no cars get added to the field, someone's out. If Dylan gets a ride. So hopefully he does. Hopefully there's an opportunity for him, because Port Royal is better with Dylan Sisney in the field for sure.
100%. I think he will. I think he'll figure something out. He's done a pretty good job up to this point, and hopefully he will. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just say, Logan Wagner, the way that team came on the second half of the Port Royal season, since really, I guess when Darren Pittman won
Williamsgrove,
they started winning, and they dang near ran down his dad for the track championship. 95 points was a different score again the Friday night. I know jumping ahead a little bit, but this win was definitely set them up pretty well going into Thursday and Friday, and he looked good all week. They look prime for him, so I hope that's a team that continues in the next year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see too if they continue that relationship. We'll go into Tusky Thursday night, the 3-day opener. 51 cars. Packed house. Well, I shouldn't say packed house. It was a good crowd. Packed pit area. With also the 305s. Brad Sweet getting his first Port Royal win since 2015. Which is pretty wild, over Rico Abreu, Anthony Macri, Logan Wagner, Tyler Courtney, Justin Peck, Parker Price Miller, Cy Lynch, who was running the 88 in filling in for Tanner Thorson, who just had a child. Brian Brown and Justin Whittle round up your top 10. This was interesting. I'm trying to look at my notes here. Big. It was mostly between those top three. Rico was leading, got it from Macri. They battled for a little bit, and then Brad kind of passed both of them, throwing some sliders. You know what I mean? I thought that as a fan, the track was pretty good because you were seeing some of those sliders. Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts?
I was shocked to see Anthony Macri lose a race at Port Royal from the front row.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, not that that's like, oh my God, but I didn't have that on my bingo card of Anthony Macri getting beat heads up by two non-port regulars from when he starts on the front row. I mean, anything can happen, obviously, but yeah, that was interesting. Brent Marks blew up in hot laps, was set behind all night, took a provisional, got to 12th, got hard charger after he actually, congrats to Brent and his wife with the newborn this week. So shout out to Brent. He was back racing and an up and down weekend for sure. Got to talk to those guys a little bit here and how their Thursday went and what they did Friday, and then Saturday with a little bit of chaos they had Saturday getting into the A main with a provisional after earning it from the B. Won't get into that tonight. That's a story for another sometime. But okay race. I did get to watch this one from here. I wasn't able to make it, so got to see the TV version of Port Royal in a big race. So that was a different perspective because I'm almost always there for the big races. But it wasn't awful, seeing them run the cushion and seeing Brad Sweet get it done. I don't love it, but it's cool for him. I mean, going from the recent performances to a win against that field is pretty big. So it felt like almost like when he got the monkey off his back winning at Williams Grove a couple years back after not winning for so many years. Sort of what it felt like, even though it wasn't a big show. It felt like that. Like all of a sudden, it's like boom, he wins a race. Like, where's this been? So, yeah, that's about all I have from this one.
Yeah, so it was his first win since May. You look at that top five; it's the who's who of top five at Port Royals. I mean, Rico gets his first win. I know we'll go on Saturday, but he's always run well there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just had some goofy things happen over the years that take him out of races. I think the surprising one is I think for me is watching Chase Dietz and even Corey Day back in the top half or the back half of the field. They both are stupid fast there, especially Corey Day. But he also, again, has terrible luck. It seems like every time he unloads at Port Royal Speedway.
Yeah, he doesn't have too many starts there, but they haven't gone very well. Each night has started at least 28 cars in the feature. Austin Bishop finished 25th. Devin Borden was 26th. Cody Lehman was 27th. And Jacob Allen was 28th. I just didn't have enough room to put it on the graphic. So it was that it just goes to show. And then there's a lot of good cars that didn't make it. You know what I mean? So, and weren't able to take a provisional. So just, a lot of good cars there. Obviously, we talked about before on the show about how high limits competition seems to be. There's a little bit more parity now. Maybe towards the end of the season here, it seems to be a little bit more top dominant with Brad, Rico, and Tyler Courtney. But that middle, that fourth to probably like ninth is they're battling back and forth. You know what I mean? I know that fifth place spot for points has been kind of going back and forth a little bit, and James McFadden's been making a charge at it. But he didn't really help his case here with a 23rd place finish. But yeah, I had fun there. I had fun all 3 nights. Obviously, I'm going to, but I thought the track was fun to watch, and even though Brad Sweet won it, it was still a hell of a race. Might have been the best out of the 3. Let's go to Friday, the night before. Aaron Reitzel, former Tuscarora 50 winner, gets a win, his first ever high limit win, and I think did somebody say it was like his first win since 2021 with the with that touring series or something
I
like
would have
that.
been. Yeah, they
He
actually
won
did. So the,
Knoxville with a touring series. That might
the
be.
touring
He won
series, his
Knoxville
last win would have
year.
been that Weed Sport race in '83 when they found his chassis that was illegal.
Yeah. So
So I heard
it
that
was something like
right
that.
through there, something that was his last win, July of 21, whatever it was. Whenever they found that illegal chassis deal.
Aaron Reitzel gets to win over Justin Whittle, second place. Chase Dietz on a podium. Brad Sweet, Brian Brown, Spencer Baston, Corey Elias, and James McFadden. Troy Wagaman, who made it to the dash and had a hell of a heat run, got us all fired up down in turn 2. And Corey Day in the top 10. Not listed here is Anthony Macri. He finished 26th, and he was battling here for this lead up front, up in the top 3 here when he got up on the wall and had a pretty gnarly flip down the backstretch. Another person also who basically sort of did the same thing in the same spot, Logan Wagner, who finished 29th, did also the same thing. They both wrecked out.
And that basically sealed Mike Wagner's track championship.
Yep.
I don't know the points, how they work there, but he was running second or third based on where Mike Wagner finished. I don't know how that goes if he stays there. I don't know how it, but I feel like it would have been.
He was
enough.
making a charge. Yeah, he was making a charge. It would have probably depended a little bit on where Mike finished.
Right.
But
I don't know the points per there, but still, that's a tough break for both of those guys. I mean, Jay-Z, you have the wildest picture of Macri flipping down the backstretch. That was one of those you kind of saw start, and once it went, it was just like, holy smokes, here we go.
Yeah, this actually was my favorite race of the weekend. Watching these guys knock the wall down through 1 and 2 was on that edge of like, I'm going to wreck this or I'm not. And
yep.
And actually, again, not whatever. Anthony wrecked on the backstretch. That car was in a straight line, climbed the wall, down, flipped over. Logan Wagner backed it into the wall in the corner and broke it, and it rode the wall off of 2. So like 2 very different things, but either way, running up there on the wall, like, we saw Reitzel leading a race earlier this year at Port Royal and blew a tire leading. This very easily could have happened again, the way he was banging the wall in 1 and 2. Very easily could have happened again. So to me, even though Reitzel won, and I'm not a fan. I guess I don't have someone I like. There are people I don't like. I don't like Aaron Reitzel. So this was still my favorite race. Just the style of the racing at Port Royal and the way this was being done was pretty entertaining, because there were guys that really just started to peel off the wall and went down to the bottom in the middle, but there were guys that were still ripping the top, and it was sketchy. Zeb Wise, this guy was running 15th and was knocking the wall down like he was a million miles an hour fighting for the lead every lap. It was so much fun to watch. And I was like, this guy's going to wreck this thing. He's going to bust his ass. And he never did. He was on the wall all weekend, it seemed like. So I was entertained by this. Justin Whitall, impressive. We're going to talk about this some more here. Chase Dietz, top 3. Flip back to the night before. Go back. That was Monday. Chase was in the top 3.
Monday he was. Monday. He finished 17th on Friday.
Right.
Or Thursday, sorry.
Yep, P2 here. Good run Monday. You're going to see his name.
He also finished second on Sunday too.
Second on
at Lincoln.
At Lincoln, right? So just consistency, man. It's like, this isn't a guy that we are like looking for a breakthrough, but holy shit, he could have won 10, 12, 15 races this year. Things go the right way just that little bit. So, but yeah, super fun. Super. I enjoyed this race a lot. It was super entertaining to me.
Yeah. But Thursday and Friday were awesome. It really got the energy going into Saturday because the racing was so good. Both
nights. I think the coolest part, so Aaron Reitzel led every lap, right? But he did not look comfortable running that cushion.
He did not lead every lap.
Well, he was up front.
He had to pass. Brian Brown started on the pole. He had to get around him. Yeah.
But most of the race, Aaron Reitzel, and he did not look nearly as comfortable banging the boards as Macri would go into the corner. It'd be smooth and straight. Up until he decided to not be smooth and straight. But and you can see Macri kind of closing in on him. And it was one of those deals like he's going to get there. What's he going to do with it? And by the time he got there, he kind of junked it. But I think it was shaping up to be a good battle. Just didn't happen.
Yeah. Lance went from 22nd to 13th here. I think he was hard charger. I could be wrong. And then Dietz went from 11th to 3rd. So there's a lot of passing here. Shout out Troy. If you guys were watching Flow, I know Matthew Bird, and he sent me a picture of me and our buddy Ryan Smith right behind Troy when he was doing the wheel in Victory Lane, which is was pretty cool. That was just that's something that what High Limit does is pretty cool. But it was just yeah, just good run for him. I know he's someone that's like, man, he wasn't sure going in, like, man, I don't run good here, and then he's passing cars to win a heat. I think he pass Chase Dietz for the
Yes,
win.
Chase Dietz in the
Yeah.
Zemco 1 to win a heat.
Yeah. So not just anybody that he passed. He one of the best cars at Port Royal. He passed and then got himself into the dash. Yeah, that was, like I said, Mike Wagner wrapped up the track title. This was the final points race of the season for the track points there at Port Royal. And then let's go into Saturday night, where Rico Aber gets to win over TJ Stutz, Anthony Macri, Logan Wagner, Justin Whittle, Freddie Raymer, Parker Price Miller, Justin Peck, Chase Dietz, and Aaron Wright was your top 10. Wild top 10 a little bit because Freddie was not even in any of the features the 2 days before. He was there, but he wasn't even in any of the features. He gets a top 10 in the biggest race. Justin Whittle, another top 5. TJ Stutz with a second, which paid $20,000, I believe. So still a good payday there. Almost, obviously we know what happened with the rubber. The last about 25, 30 laps of the race kind of made it a dull race, single file on the bottom, not typical, not like 2 nights before. A lot of fans were frustrated. Understandable, but we kind of already talked about this with Danny. I don't want to get too far into it because I think we kind of said everything we needed to say. But what other thoughts do you guys have from Saturday night?
Congrats to Rico. And that's it. I mean, he had this race, I think, won a couple years ago, and the tire went flat like a couple to go. I think is that the year maybe Macri went 21st or whatever. Either way, Rico's up there. So, I mean, the fans love when he wins. So good for him. TJ Stutz just keeps on surprising us since July. So they got something figured out there going into National Open season. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Mike Walter goes. I think Mike Walter was the hard charger here. Provisional 26th to 14th. If I read that BK Motorsports post
so.
right. It's cool. It's still a fun event. Racing wasn't there. It's unfortunate, but we'll have that.
But the rest of the day, the racing was pretty decent in the heat races. It was slick and slow, but it was still, you still have some of the best guys in the country and obviously the best cars at Port Royal that run there. They still find a way to put on a show. So even with the rubber, it was still interesting. Sucked for Lance. Lance was leading this one for a good chunk in the beginning. I believe we sponsored laps 2 and 12 and I believe he led both of those. So shout out to him. Rico took the lead with about like 15 or 16 laps in, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there. But then Lance was running still up in that podium. Well, he kind of got swallowed up by TJ and Anthony. You could see him starting to lose that tire, and then it finally let go. And it gets a 22nd place finish, which sucks. Because you thought maybe that could have been the night, because that 12 struggled the first 2 nights a little bit. Some issues here and there, and on Monday, well, that was a different car. My bad. But yeah, just and Corey Day goes for a big flip in turn 3. Those are kind of the big things of note on Saturday. In my eyes, he had a pretty rough one. It was rougher than I thought. I didn't really see it from turn 2, but then watching the replay, that was a pretty gnarly wreck. He Tony Hawked that card wreck. Also, there was also a big wreck on Friday night between Devin Borden, Dallas Schott, and Jake Karklin, where it just seemed like too many cars trying to dive for the bottom, and then Borden ends up going over the guardrail and near the billboards. It was pretty bad. But everybody was okay. But tore up race cars. There was some words exchanged. So we heard, and give a shout out here. Not many people stayed for the non-qualifiers race, I don't believe, but Dominic Miller, who's a guy we've been kind of talking about a lot more. If we go back and look at some of these other results, he's like right there at the top 10 in with some good competition here. But he wins the non-qualifiers race. It locks him into next year. He's really starting to get rolling.
Yeah, you figure that's a $3,000 to win race right now, but if you look
Plus-
at big picture, 5,000 because that's a 2,000. Unless something changes, 2,000 to start win next year. So good for him. Be locked in. I was
Yeah.
not one of the ones that watched that.
No, there wasn't many people left.
I watched
It was because you were. I know you watched it. Yeah.
You had a job to do.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was going to. I'm going to look this up. There it is. So Dominic Miller. Okay. So shout out to him first of all, but he runs P3 at Clinton County a couple weeks ago. He goes 20th to 11th at the Gobrecht at Lincoln, which is hard charger. He gets a Port Royal, the Living Legends. No, not there. Labor Day Classic runs 12th, 19th to 12th at the Labor Day Classic on Monday. So podium, hard charger, 12th, wins the non-qualifier here in pretty convincing fashion. At least Alfred's been more wrenching on the car for a couple weeks here.
Mhm.
I think he's that guy. And I don't know their equipment situation. We'd love to have him on the show. Actually, I talked to him. We're gonna have him on at some point. Um, Racing family, brother races in 305 division, in the red 36, I believe it is.
Yep.
So racing family
so.
for sure. I think they do a lot with a little, I think. Not sure. I'd love to have them on to get to know, but definitely, starting to really show some signs of like, hey, this is somebody to watch out for. So put that name on the radar. And it's funny talking to Danny a little bit ago about the young and up and coming guys. The guys that he mentioned were all guys we mentioned earlier this year about like Lincoln and breakouts.
Yep.
Matt Campbell, right? Matt
Troy.
Campbell, Bollinger, Troy, all of those names is like we could see this kind of coming if all the things work out, and it's been that kind of year. I think Dominic Malaire is going to be on that radar for me for 2025.
Yep,
It's
I
too
agree.
early for us to have that show, but he's that guy on that radar. If it continues in this trajectory, he's a name you're going to hear more.
Yep.
He would be on that list. So very cool for him.
Any final? We had an absolute great time, a great event. The fair is awesome. The racing 90. The racing was fine, even though I don't even want to harp on the rubber because I know I was opinionated on Saturday night, but and I still am. But it is what it is.
So-
and go ahead.
Are we gonna close down, drink it, dump it? Is that what we're doing here?
Can you calm down? Can we?
You said, do you have any thoughts? That's what my thoughts were.
No, we're not there yet. Not there yet. But yeah, so let's go just preview this upcoming weekend real quick. Rescheduled Dirty Deeds race that was supposed to be right before Labor Day, I believe, for the 358s, being partnered up here with the Billy Kimmel Memorial for 410s on Friday night at Williamsgrove. That's usually a bigger event for Williamsgrove as they start to ramp up here towards the National Open. Should be a good one to watch. Weather's looking so far pretty good. Saturday, you got Lincoln Rack Daddy's Rumble. We were just talking about that a little bit. Time trials for the 410s and a Summer Series race for the 358s. $7,000 to win for the 410s. And then the rescheduled Sportsman 100 will be at BAPS on Saturday. FanFest starts at 2 o'clock. Not only do you get the Sportsman 100, you get the late models, you get the extreme stocks, and you get the East Coast Legends. Everything's FanFest opens at 2. Grandstands open at 4 and racing starts at 6. Only $20. So a couple good options here this weekend to get some racing in as we kind of talked about a little bit here. We're starting to get to the end of the season. We can almost get at least almost on within 2 hands, 10 fingers of how many races are left here in the area. Sad times, but it is what it is. That's how it goes every year. But so definitely get out while you still can. Let's go ahead with Drink It and Dump It now, Chris.
You get to go first.
You get to go first. If for those of you in the chat real quick and that might be new to the show, trick it to somebody that had a great weekend that you want to give a cheers to, give a shout out to, and dump it to somebody who kind of want to give a shout out to, maybe for the other reason. Maybe they had a bad weekend, bad luck, or did something shitty. So go ahead, Chris.
So sort of drink it for Braden, little dude in the infield all 3 nights, fired up, watching every lap of Anthony Macri and Lance Deweese all 3 nights. The coolest dude. His mom and dad we met him a few times. He was the guy. So I wanted to make sure to get him drinking that Kool-Aid, get that Capri Sun because he's 7. But and then dump it. I guess it's probably for Brett Perigo's face. I don't know what happened to it, but dump it for that, man.
I wonder what happened to it.
Wouldn't know.
By the way, Ampe, I look confused because I'm watching to see which receiver just caught that touchdown for the Jets. That's all.
Say Wilson.
It was a black guy. I couldn't tell who it was.
Can you say Wilson?
No, it wasn't. It was Alan Lazard, who's almost black. He's not really black. It's kind of weird. Like,
it's such a weird
I can tell in a white
way
jersey.
to
So
take this.
he just had like 60 yards on that drive. I need Garrett Wilson, man. I mean,
So
I
do
don't
I.
need him, but yeah. Anyway,
Go ahead.
you're done.
Yep.
Are you want me to go?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. I'll drink it to Justin Whittle's weekend. Really late push. He's going to be on that list. Another guy on that list, and I don't know if he made that list last year. I think we've talked about it at times. Had some wins, whatever. But man, the runs that he's had here this last month or two, been. I don't know their numbers. The Jets, know their numbers. I'm sorry. But Justin Whittle for sure for his runs here at the end of the year. Dump it for me would be Devin Borden's week. Just between performance and then crashes, just not what they were looking for, right? You go to Port Royal, Devin Borden. Everyone wants him to contend and be up there, and it from beginning to end, it just didn't go like they planned, especially after the weekend before when they had some really good runs. Saturday at Lincoln, hard charger, I think, or Sunday at Lincoln, and Saturday, I think he was really good at Port, or I forget how that went, or maybe Monday, I don't remember, but or Friday night. No, I don't remember, but he had 2 good nights last weekend, come into this weekend with some momentum, feeling good. Everybody's hyped, and it just didn't go their way. So dump it to Devin Borden and their team, and hopefully they can get it turned around here before the end of the season and take some momentum into 2025.
I want to drink it to oh man, I blanked out. I want to drink it to Rico. He's a guy that has led a lot at Port, a couple times in the Tusky 50, and has had bad luck, and had his luck go around this time. He was fast all week, finally gets it done, wins 2 huge money races in the span of a week. They won Skagit the week before, so really great week for him. And then dump it to dump it to the end of the season coming up. Port season being over, it was kind of, we used to have that other outlaw race, and I guess maybe I'll dump it to Selinsgrove losing their outlaw race, although possibly self-inflicted. I don't know. But it's a shame. That was a big race I was looking forward to, and now, Lincoln's going to do it justice. But we'll dump it to that. Let's get to a couple from the audience. Marie says, dump it, Macri, for not winning from the pole on his flip. Santos says, drink it to 2T2 for having a badass episode 100. Thank you. Pour it to Saturday's track surface. Can agree there. Randy says, drink it to TJ Stutz and Mike Wagner, and dump it for Lynn Paxton. He's in the hospital. Tyler Koenig says, drink it to the World 100 for being an awesome show, and congrats to Bobby Pierce. Dump it to the end of summer. Agreed. We got Michael. I want to get to Michael here. Dump it to Tyler Courtney. He has the past few weeks have been a string of bad luck. And then Mandy says, drink it the whole fair Tusky week energy. Tanner Thorson and Brett Mark's new babies. Getting to meet a lot of the drivers in the merch area on Saturday. Fair food, Eldora Ward 100, Blue Kiss Memorial. Lincoln getting the Selinsgrove Outlaw Day. Posse on the podiums during Tusky week. Dump it to rain, Selinsgrove, Devin Borden, track prep Saturday. People hitting the beach ball Saturday. Constantly hitting them down between the grandstand and catch fence, and dump it to my bank account. There's a lot of them. Yeah, I didn't notice. Well, we were in the infield, but I didn't see any beach balls. But I wasn't really looking at the grandstands too
I
often.
saw them. I had to block my with the lights, and somebody was talking about it, and I had to I couldn't see them without blocking the lights. It was so damn bright facing in. But yeah, they were out there flying around. It sounds like they didn't have very good control of them, though.
Amanda said,
real quick, Amanda says, Perigo, I see you. Winner, Saturday night, drink it to that.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Craig. And
maybe he'll be on the show.
Amanda says, drink it to Whittle, was hoping he would win this weekend and dump it to the whole Selinsgrove situation. I agree. It's just not good all the way around. Nobody wants to see what's going on there, not including the people involved. You know what I mean? It's just unfortunate. So hopefully they can get that figured out over the winter here, and we can get that place back on track next year. But I digress. Guys, thank you guys so much. Episode 100. Thank you so much, Danny Dietrich. Made this awesome. Next week, we'll have to we'll keep you updated on the schedule. I'm going to be in Philly for the Eagles game. And then
yeah, we'll talk.
You work till late, so we'll talk about it. Maybe have to figure something out. But we will try to be back next week. If not, see you at the racetrack this weekend. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for 100.